So I have with me today a man who, in a lot of ways, needs no introduction because he introduces himself quite often on Instagram, which I love. He's very true to himself. He has a spearfishing company that he's traveled to a lot of the places that I would dream about going to, places like the Azores or uh, Cape Verde, Ascension Island, all these places. But his name is, well, just his name is Charles Slattery, but it's GTCC, Good Time Charlie Charters. He's been banned from Instagram, and he had to reinvent himself numerous times, which I just love it. It's so great. But anyways, I wanted to have him on the show because I wanted to get an honest assessment of something that we need to talk about as a whole, as a community, because I believe that things could be polished up, and as adults, we're always trying to get a little better and check ourselves. And I think the industry is no different than that sometimes. So, Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brett.
No, I appreciate it. So the first thing, the topic that we had talked about before is we talked about what is the GOAT of spearfishing. Basically, yeah.
What a new 2020, 2021 term, right? Like,
yeah.
The GOAT.
I hear it everywhere across all spectrums of life.
Yeah. So first, before we get into that, let's start how I even got into the sport.
Yeah.
Because I'm not born and bred spearfishing. I grew up on a little farm in the middle of the woods, about as poor as you can get. My family's still that way. Rode horses to school. It was just spearfishing, being in the ocean, like wasn't even really an option. Every couple years, my family would save up money, and the entire family would go like on an ocean trip, broken down boats. But like if we caught a catfish or a stingray, like it was just insane cool. Like it wasn't until my mid-20s that I even knew what any of this stuff was. So that's where, like, I want a lot of people to know, like, why my passion for the sport is so strong. Is because I didn't grow up in it, and the people that I got involved with right off the bat at the time, to me, were literally the coolest, most badass people on earth. And fortunately for me, being my personality and my work ethic, I was very successful at the time. So when I had met these people, I had owned a welding and machining company, and it was doing very well. And I just had, not to be I guess cocky or whatever the word is. Yeah, but I just had more money than I knew what to do with at the time. And I knew as a young man that I'd missed a lot of life before, and I wanted to do everything I could do. So I was learning from these people that I got involved with that I thought were, God's gift to the ocean. And I'm like, everything they did was just incredible. And I'm talking 35, 40-foot dives, 45-second to a minute breath holds. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, how are you guys doing this? And it was years of training. And then hey man, I got all this extra gear, buy all this. So I'm just throwing thousands of dollars on scuba spearfishing fins and scuba spearfishing guns, and all, like, buying them like numerous. You need a gun of every inch, and yeah. I didn't even, like, my personality too is I'm a good old boy, dude. I'm a handshake type dude. I don't go on the internet and search for things. If you tell me something, I believe it. But when I find out you're wrong, or like years down the road, you're going to pay a wrath for it, which is what's happening on this podcast right now. So So what happened was I literally was just thousands of dollars throwing at this guy for gear, and then um, we would go out every weekend on a single engine boat 10 miles offshore, and don't worry about, I can't accept gas money because I don't have these permits and yada yada. But he's like, I mean, I can't accept like a charter fee or whatever. He's just fill the boat up with gas. Again, I've never been on these kind of boats, dude. I'm in my mid 20s, so like I admit the stupidity. Never been on these kind of boats. I didn't know. $600 every weekend in gas. It's like we've all been on single engine boats, 20-foot long. If you put $600 in gas in that thing, it's got a hole in the tank somewhere. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah, I was it kinda knocked me over there.
yeah.
$600.
So, but I didn't know, man. I was so excited. Like I told you, man, I grew up being so poor that me stepping foot on a boat that cranked up when you turn the key, a boat that was fiberglass, a boat that just like actually worked and it had a GPS. We never had any of that. So I'm like, this is badass, you know? And so I was just doing anything it took to go. And I admit my fault, I admit my wrongs for like wanting to be cool, but I didn't grow up in that environment, you know? So like so I was just doing it, and then and like I said, fortunately I had the money at the time to leave and go like to Australia and go to Indonesia and go to Fiji and go to Africa and do all this stuff. And I was meeting different people. Um, and I realized there's a lot of people out there that are really good that have nothing to do with social media or spearfishing businesses or training. Like all this training is a joke now to me. Um, but these guys are 40, 45 meters, spearfishing, not variable weight, not, all this crap. It's like, I didn't even know what a meter was at the time. I was so stupid. I'm full blown American. So this guy's like, okay, we're going to go do 40-meter drops and we're going to shoot this kind of fish in New Zealand. And this guy's name was Ray Powell, the owner of Dive Bar Fins. And, I met him in New Zealand and we stayed there about a month. And I'm shooting a fish at 10 feet and I had no idea what to do with it because I had a scuba gun with a scuba reel and I'm letting it go and it's going all over the place. And he's going down, unwrapping it from kelp at 44 meters. And I'm like, dude, that's like 140 feet, like, what are you doing down there? So then I'd come back to Florida and these guys they're just a joke. So everybody that I grew up in this sport learning from, um, it was heartbreaking to come back and just realize like how bad they'll screw you over and how bad they'll teach you and the lies that they live in just to be popular. Um,
Well, there's a
I
couple
don't.
things you mentioned there, like for one thing, it's like when you first start learning stuff, you kind of deal with like absolutes. You always think, oh, okay, that's, you don't know what you don't know until you start learning stuff. And I think you learn things through traveling, like you're saying, and different experiences. And then the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know, or
Yeah.
like how embarrassed you were because of this and this and this.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and it's what started my company because, like I said, man, when I used to own the welding company, that whole company started from me being a poor kid. I rode a motorcycle with stolen firefighter gear up and down the highway, trying to find a job, and I ended up at a welding shop that that couldn't pay me in checks because I was too young, so they would pay me in cash to sweep the floors. And I ended up staying every night, learning how to weld, doing all this, and I did that all on my own. But it's just work ethic. And and I and the people that worked at the shop were the same way as these spearfishing people, and they were telling me the wrong things to do because nobody ever wants you to be better than them. So you got to better yourself. So they were telling me basically how to fail weld tests and how to do everything wrong because they didn't want this little idiot kid to be at the same level as they are. So my drive went so hard with welding that I went so high up in the industry. By the time I was 24 years old, I was owning a welding company and nuclear power plants, a multi-million dollar company. So I just got so stressed out in and out of court, all the scrap that I had to sell out. And I had a ton of money, sold my houses, sold my cars, and I traveled the world for about 4 years, um, doing nothing but spearfishing and freediving. And and I stayed in Italy for a couple months. Didn't speak one lick of English, or sorry, I spoke perfect English. I didn't speak any Italian, but I spent 3 months in Italy learning to freedive in Italian freedive courses, just trying to figure out what the hell they're saying, you know?
Right, right. Well, I
So
think a part of that though, you have to be very humble. You know, you got to get over yourself, I think, in order to be even open to receiving
y-
that information, right? Like,
yes, you have to be open to knowledge all the time, and in this sport, if it's not written down in that little book, nobody's open to it. You know what I mean? Nobody.
oh
So
yeah, yeah. And the other thing is like, oh, here's an idea. There's about 10 different ways to get the same result, you know.
yeah,
Just because it's not your way doesn't mean it's dead wrong, you
correct.
know. Yeah, so I've
And
noticed that as well.
it, you're exactly right. And you know, there's a side of me that, as you know, I don't like the courses, but I do like the courses. I like the courses for safety only, you know. But in a way, you push it so hard that you're not creating an athlete. So I don't know how to talk shit about the courses without talking shit about them, but there's certain ones that I love, but they got out of control. Um, the other thing I don't like about them is that, like we talked about with Tony Hawk, when me and you were growing up, Tony Hawk did a backflip on a skateboard. It's the coolest thing on earth. If you go to the skate park right now, there's 8-year-old kids doing it. So
Right.
it evolves so much. And this sport of freediving has evolved so much in the past couple years that you cannot go by that book that was written 15 years ago. You know, like you
Right.
can't. So, but money wise, and I get it because I'm a businessman myself. Money wise, why would these guys rewrite their whole program, retrain all their trainers, you know, recertify everything just for a couple goonies to go learn to dive 60 feet? Like they don't care. They're going to constantly make money, but you're not creating an animal. You're not creating an athlete. So
Now,
the way I
when
tell
you
guys,
hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you
yep.
say create an athlete, like, can you be specific as far as create what kind of athlete?
So my company and my personality, and
Uh-huh.
I won't even allow you. Like I won't even allow you to come on my boat or come to my pool if you're not willing to be a super athlete. So what I mean by that is if you look at any other sport in the world that has super athletes, the Olympics, the foot NFL, motocross, anything, like me and you, we can all ride a dirt bike. We can all throw a football, but I damn sure am not going to go race motocross, and I'm not going to go try to tackle some NFL football player. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're
that'd be
super
bad.
athletes.
Yeah.
So, but they're willing to put themselves through the extreme measures, right? So what I like to be like, you know, NASCAR is really relatable. I relate to NASCAR in my classes a lot because it's super extreme. It's super dangerous, but you don't ever see anybody like dying or getting hurt, you know? Um so when you're a NASCAR driver, you go into it full blown and you say, "Look, it's balls to the wall or nothing, because if I don't go hard, somebody else is going to go harder than me and they're going to be better than me." So what you're doing is you're relying on full blown, you're relying on your training and your safety team. So you've got your helmet, your fire suit, your roll cage, your doctors, you've got all this stuff that's ready to be there for you when you crash. And you don't care if you crash or not, right? You just go
Right.
hard. But in freediving and spearfishing, all they teach you is how not to black out and how not to do this and not to do this. And then you're just forcing yourself to black out, you know? So like you're always so terrified of something going wrong that you're not going to perform. So the guys that come to us, we go hard, and there's no scares behind it. And if you figure out, and you've seen our stuff, we have guys in the first day for years diving 100 feet. And if you it's a personality thing. If you figure out why that happened instead of oh my god that happened, you become better. So like for instance, what I'm saying is, and you might not even know this, I don't know your level of diving, but
I'm
if you
shitty.
black shitty, yeah, so
Yeah,
great,
shitty. Yeah.
so you're going to learn a lot here, but if you black out, if I blacked out, let's say me, if I blacked out, my personality is not to come up and be, oh my God, I'm never doing this again, or I'm never going that deep again, or whatever. I'm going to say, what did I do wrong in order for that to happen?
Right.
Nobody, I don't know anybody that does that. I don't know anybody that questions why they did something wrong and try to fix it. Everybody says, that's why we tell you to be safe, you know? So,
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I could say like a bunch of my friends and guys that I've personally met, they've blacked out or whatever it is, and it's the same, but it's a different type of people though too. You know, it's like you're saying, but it's like taking, you know, it's a calculated risk, okay, and if it happens and you got people backing you up, then okay, shit
yes.
happens. That's why it happened. Like, I know why certain things happen to me. Okay, I know what I can do to prevent them. I know, like my buddy blacked out, and it was like, okay, I know exactly why he blacked out, but we were there and we took care of it.
Yeah.
Like for me, example, I was doing a closed circuit dive for work, and there was a problem with the rig, and it was fucked up. This is years ago. Excuse me, and I ended up like uh, basically the scrubber wasn't working, so I was just breathing straight CO2, you know,
Hmm.
over and over again. Started going crazy. Ended up popping, like freaking out because like when you lose, like I don't know if you ever happen this ever happened to you, but when you lose, like no matter what's happened in my life, I've been pretty conscious, been able to calculate and think about it. But when you lose that ability to think about it, you know you're freaking out. You don't have any control
Hmm.
over your mind, and it's really a weird feeling of not having control over your mind. And then come to find out there was an issue with the rig. We fixed the problem with the rig, and I'm like, okay, let's go. And we continued on with the dive. And I didn't even think anything of it. But a couple of people that I know from work, they're like, wow, that was crazy. You just went and did it after what happened to you. And it was
Yeah.
funny because like going back on straight O2, because it was a straight O2 rebreather, is the best thing that I could have done. Like
Hmm.
that's why, because I, you know what's wrong. I was breathing basically straight my own air over and over and over again. It wasn't filtering anything. Put some go on CO2 or go on O2, and you're good to go. Like, but people freak out and they just quit. Like,
Yeah. They just quit. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you
So,
want to be safe, why would you even go and do the sport that we're doing?
correct.
Like, I don't understand that.
Correct. It's not about, so when freedive spearfishing first started, and I want to be very clear about that. Like, there's
Yeah,
a big difference in spearfishing and freediving. So
100%.
as far as I know, all the courses are pretty based around freediving. You know,
Right, right, right.
so
No,
but it's when it first started, and it first started getting extreme. Like I said, I didn't get into it years ago, but the guys that were into it years ago, the Terry Mosses, the Daryl Wongs, and all that, like let's just be honest here, they're legends because they're doctors and they're old and they were the first guys to ever do it. So they're legendary status because they kind of like OG'd the sport, but they're not legendary status for like performance of diver, you know? So
right. I don't, yeah, and I'll be clear too. Like, exactly what you're saying. Like, they're legends for spearfishing because they were
yes,
there since day one.
they were there since day one, but the sport has evolved so much that you can't really take any advice from them besides super cool stories. Like, you know, but as far as like what kind of guns to use, what kind of fins to use, how to free dive, like you just can't take advice from them. You know, like it's it's just that they don't have it in them to give you. So legendary status, 100% OGs in the sport. Thank God for them for creating what they did. But
So, again, let me just add on to what you're saying because I know there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, that's bullshit." And to
uh
be perfectly, hold on, to be perfectly fair, like if we take the emotional tie and loyalty we feel and respect we feel to those guys, if you take that away and you look at what you're saying, if you were to go back to a fundamental sport, maybe that like I don't even know, like the guys that played football in the 30s, or like I know we did it at, when I was in college. We looked at some of the guys that won the Heisman's in 1941, and I was like, yeah, that dude wouldn't even be able to hang with us today, you
correct,
know. So
correct.
no disrespect to what they did, but it's really true. What you're saying does have an element of truth for sure. And that's the first time hearing it, what you're saying. And I kind of agree with you on what it is. Like things have changed. Obviously, there's some fundamental things that will stay consistent, but I do see it here in California, and that's kind of why everybody jokes around about us diving with our timber guns, our gigantic guns, and I know where that comes from because we had like 1 degree. We had, for me personally, I had 1 degree of separation from those legends. The
Yeah.
guy that mentored me, he knew those guys. He learned from them, and then he taught me. And for the
Yeah.
longest time, I'm like, yeah, you need a 5 band giant thing to go shoot this
100%.
fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and if
So
it ain't broke, why fix it? Yeah, that's
why
kind of the
fix
other
it? Yeah.
attitude. Yeah,
And people just aren't willing to learn. And dude, I'll tell you, like, even to this day, if somebody outdoes me in diving, or somebody has better advice and I can logically put it together, I'll change everything I do. But I'm never, I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I'm always learning. Um, so when I told you, when I went on my little escapade of finding myself, let's call it, one of the first major trips that I did was Daryl Wong, Terry Moss, Colleen Gallagher, Sherry Day. Like, I got mixed up in a group of people that people dream of getting mixed up on. And these are all the OGs of the sport.
yeah, 100%
Um,
legit. Like, yeah, I
yeah, I mean,
respect. I love Sherry too because you don't see her all over social media. I mean, I really
no,
don't for the most part. She just fucking does it though. You know?
Sherry's the bomb. I love talking to her personally. I chat with her all the time, and her and mine and yours mindset were, she's on point with, if you get what I'm saying,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
she can't
100%.
stand it.
Yeah,
So, and Sherry will even admit, she's not the best diver in the world. She's got great hookups, but Sherry has shot every kind of fish you can imagine. She's been everywhere you can imagine to go. She's got experience, but she's not a world record deep free diver, So
right.
would I take how to dive from Sherry? Absolutely not. Would I sit down and have a couple drinks and listen to all the stories that she says, and where the most fish are and where the nicest people are? And absolutely, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
100%. Yeah,
so for instance, like when I first met Terry Moss, I went on this trip with my spear gun that the owner of a certain magazine sold me, and it was a scuba gun painted with rhino liner. It had
yeah,
2 bands on it. It was rigged with cable. I mean, the absolute worst setup you can have for going tuna fishing. I paid $1,000 for it. They're not even that much at the store. I just didn't know. So I go on this trip with Terry and Colleen and all these people, and they're just sitting there laughing at me like, "Where did you get all this stuff?" So I didn't even know who Terry was at the time. I just knew he was some old guy on a trip and whatever. But after I found out who he was, but looking back, what we're saying about, like, are these guys legends? Like, the old boy shot some fish like you wouldn't believe. But looking back, I believe it was Peter. Peter was super young at the time, doing trips in Panama as well. And Terry was actually like making fun of them for saying these young kids and their new ways, chumming for tuna, like how disrespectful to the fish, kill one fish for another fish. And I believed it. I'm like, oh yeah, fuck these guys. Like, what do you mean they're doing that? And who does that? And he's like, oh, this guy Cameron chumming wahoos in Ascension Island. I seen the video. It's like, yeah, but who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know the situation. Like, sometimes fish is freezer burnt, or it didn't make it to the ice in time, but you don't know the situation. But I thought for a couple of years, chumming for tunas was like against the law. Like,
yeah,
so like I was telling everybody like, oh man, you chum for tunas, what a pussy. But it's like, why would you not chum for tunas? It's the easiest way to get them. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's just who I learned from. I wouldn't say is like an OG, or I would say they're OG, but they're not a legend.
yeah.
We've learned so much about tunas and how to get them. We learned how to dive. We've learned where to go. We've learned their patterns. Um, it's
I would
just
say they're. I mean, they're legends in their own facet. Like they're,
100%.
you know what I mean? Like they're legends for what they do and what they did. Like,
They created a hell of a path for us,
right,
and
right, yeah.
you'll
And
never be
there's,
able to fill their shoes. They were the first guys that had the balls to do it.
I mean, they're
Like,
diving at Guadalupe Island with white sharks, shooting 300-pound tuna with
Shit
shit that
gear.
they had to figure out on their own. You know, like
Yup.
the lifeguard floats that fill with foam. I'm like, that works.
Yeah, and and
Yeah,
and and you just think back then, like, the boats that they had, and, like, they're just everything was terrible. They had no GPSs. They When I did my traveling thing, I had a handheld GPS,
right.
and,
I remember when that was new.
yeah, and and
Yeah,
and I carried a transducer, and we would put a transducer on a bamboo stick in the water, and we just hang it over the side of the boat. Like, they didn't have any of that, you know? So,
yeah,
the dudes are they're I mean, just for them to have the balls to say, "I'm gonna go do this extreme sport," which is what we originally got into this topic was, that's why they're legends. But now, the sport is no longer extreme. So, if we evolve the human with the sport, and there's guys out there like myself that are diving super super deep, shooting cool fish, whatever whatever, but the most extreme guys are the ones that have the extreme amount of followers that are blacking out in 45 to 60 feet. It's like, well, why are there guys like us diving 150 not blacking out? If you just kind of ask yourself, like, you're not really, you're portraying yourself as extreme, but are you extreme? And the guys that have the most followers, the most likes, the most popularity are the ones training people. So
yeah.
so
That's a big topic because
that's the
really,
problem.
like, I mean, I'll be honest. Like I say, I'm a shit diver, but I mean, the deepest I've ever gone is 93 feet. Like, what I realized through all the times of diving is the biggest limiting thing for me is not my mind or my body, whatever it's, or I guess my body. But I have to exercise my trachea and do diaphragm stretches, or anytime I go past 60, I have some sort of fucking issue. But
Yeah.
regardless of all of that, but what I've noticed is the guys that are the extreme guys, what you're talking about, by definition of, the younger kids that I've seen today, it's like the extreme guys are the guys that post the pictures with a giant fish that went
100%.
here, that went here. And I'm like, dude, that's a once in a lifetime trip for someone like me. Um,
Yeah.
and the fish that I've had the pleasure of shooting, the bigger fish, or even the dogtooth that I had the pleasure of hunting for months at a time. Like, I know some other people that were in this situation. Um, it was because my job put me in that situation where I could sit there for months away from my family, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna make the best of a bad situation, and I'm gonna go and do what I got to do. What a great opportunity to do something like that! But I sure as hell couldn't afford to go to that place on my own dime,
Yeah, and
and nor would I
it
want to in some of these places. But I mean, really,
it's wild that, that some people can't, because I can't either, to tell you the truth. If my customers didn't pay for it, I wouldn't be going. But,
right?
but when I did do it all on my own, I'm s I mean, I'll never look back on my life and say, "I'm glad I didn't do that," or
Hundred
whatever,
percent, hundred
but
percent. Yeah,
I was able to learn, but, I guess, like what we were getting at is with my company, we only allow people that are ready to do the backflip on the dirt bike. If you just wanna learn to casually spearfish, or you wanna hit 66 feet and whatever, whatever, that's I'll turn you away. I'll say, "Go somewhere else." But we are gonna push your limits. We're gonna do everything we can to make you so uncomfortable that it's just you're gonna feel like you're dying all the time, but we're creating an extreme athlete right off the bat. We're giving you all the right tools right off the bat. So,
well, so let's talk about ways you do that, right? Because, like, when you're holding your breath, like we did the Ted Hardy, the 28-day freediving transformation, and
yeah,
just doing those skills to the you're first of all, you're paying for something, so you don't want to waste your money. But doing those skills, you're on dry land, you're in your bed, sitting there, holding your breath, and
mhm,
it's like just doing those skills is exhausting if you do them correctly and you do them 100% to your ability. Like, I didn't hold my breath like for over 6 minutes because that shit was easy. Even if doing diving for all these years, I was like, that was fucking torture. That
yeah,
training, but son of a bitch, man. At the end of it, like, I feel so much better diving. Is so what do you guys do, like, because it seems like all the breath holding stuff, all the stuff is relatively the same, for the most part, but is it more about the mindset that is allowing you
yeah.
to push your guys farther?
Yeah, so the difference in myself, and I think a lot of the guys, is I don't care about professionalism, and I don't care about people's feelings, and I don't care, and I don't take no for an answer. So like,
Right,
if you come to us and you willingly gave me money to learn, I am not going to sit here and listen to you tell me, well, this is what works for me. You know,
right,
it's like, well, why the fuck are you here then? Because if it works for you and you're so good, then why the fuck did you pay me all this money to be here? So it's
yeah,
obviously not working for you. We're obviously better than you. You came here for a reason.
right.
Um,
It's like someone
so
kicks your ass in a fight on Friday, and Monday you go train with them because you're
yeah,
humble enough to say, like, "Dude, whatever it was you
dude,
did,
whatever you
yeah,
did, yeah.
teach me."
So
Yeah,
and and I'm still like that. I'll invite people on the boat all the time. If you say you can outdive me or whatever, I'll say, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Because I thought I was pretty good. You know,
yeah,
most people won't do that. They'll just say, no, they're them fucking idiots are crazy. We're not. We're just willing to learn. Um, but what we do different and what I've noticed, and like I told you, man, I can't bash the classes because it's kind of in this world it's bad to do. But what I don't like about them is when they originally started. Okay, and I took Ted Hardy's class um because I was very displeased with two classes I took before him, and I was very pleased with the class that I took in Italy first, but I couldn't understand what the fuck they were saying.
right.
So then I came back to Florida and I took two FII classes, if I can say that on here. I took two classes.
Sure, whatever you want.
Um and and I was very displeased. I'm like, all I did was sit in a room and listen to some guy talk about how great he was and how many competitions he's done and his deepest dive he's ever done. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, but I was just in Australia like not that long ago. And the guys that were just spearfishing that have never taken a class dove deeper than you just said your deepest dive you've ever done was. How are you a world champion? And so like if you notice the pattern, if you just open your eyes, like it seems like everybody you listen to and talk to is a world champion nowadays. Like every free diver you look at is a world champion, but in their country that's this big.
Well, you
So
can
it's like,
say that. No, I know what you're saying. You could say I was a world champ. I technically am a world champion jujitsu white belt.
yeah,
Won 2 weeks of training, won the world championships, got $150, got a belt like to
yeah,
wear around like a wrestling belt that the kids like to wrestle for. Like
yeah.
you can say
There's
that,
no,
especially this industry is so small. Like the contests I used to go to, there'd be 5 dudes, and it was just a
yeah,
chance to get together with a bunch of guys to go. Obviously, it's grown, and again, not to take away from anything that anybody's ever done, but I just don't like. I don't know. You got to be careful when you're boasting and advertising shit because, um, eventually that's going to go away, and the peel is going to come off, and you're going to, and you, especially if you're charging money for um for people to get something from you. Like
yeah,
people ask, hey, you should get into free diving, and I was talking to Ted about this. He goes, it'd be great because you're a spear fisherman to teach free diving. I go, well, I'm a shitty free diver. Like if you want me to teach you spear fishing, I can do that. I can
yeah,
do that. I feel comfortable doing that. I feel like I would be presenting you with enough information. If you want to teach about free diving, I've taken the advanced course and all this stuff and go down 85 feet comfortably. Great. Um, I got to get a lot better. Like
yeah.
before I would
So
do something like that to someone.
yeah, and you just kind of got to like you got to look around and say, what I can't if I can't even dive as good as this guy, what the hell am I doing teaching? And like maybe I should
Right.
call him and say, hey, what are you doing? So that's what I did when I called and I booked Ted's course. Was I was like, I did Italy, I just couldn't understand them, and I was in Australia, and them guys were crushing. Then we went to New Zealand, and those guys were crushing. Then I come to South Florida, and I got a dude telling me everything about how glorious he is, and he sucked. And then I went to Ted, and everybody's like, oh well, Ted's the best. Ted was the best trainer that I've met yet thus far. He's very knowledgeable. He backs himself up. He goes down every single time with you. If you have a question, he answers it. But but my problem, not with Ted, but my problem with the course was I wanted to do more, and they don't allow it. My personality is I'm not done yet. but the book doesn't allow it. The insurance doesn't allow it. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
100 feet.
So
I got a limit. You got to stop at 100
that's it.
feet.
They cut you off. They put the plate
Yeah.
there and they say, no, we're not doing anymore. We can't, like,
Yeah. It's
because
insurance.
because my insurance. But
Right.
so so you can't push your limits, and you think in your mind that that's as deep as you can go because I'm advanced trained now, but it's like, but they don't allow you to push your limits and say, I want to do better. So after that, after that course, where do you go? Like, where do you go from there? Do you go to Deja Blue in Hawaii and pay $8,000 a person or whatever it is? Like,
Right.
how do you learn more? So that's where I was at. I was like, how did these guys? I can only take a course to go to 85 or 100 feet. That's all that I can affordably do. How did these guys learn to get to 140 feet? So I was talking to Ray Powell, and he said, dude, he's like, just fucking do it. He's like, quit asking everybody how to do it. He said, just fucking do it. I'm like, but they said you can't because, like, I'm gonna fucking die and all this. He goes, you're not gonna fucking die. Just do it. I've
Yeah.
I've never met anybody in the sport like that yet. So
Well,
so
not to interrupt you real quick about that, but it's really funny because scuba, I got certified when I was like 12. Scuba, like Patty, is the same exact shit
yeah.
because you get certified and you're like, oh, you can go to 40 feet now, or you can go to 60 feet now comfortably. Then you got to get your advanced diver to go to 90 feet. Like, what the fuck happens from breathing air from 60 to 90 feet? I
Yeah.
don't know. Nothing.
You don't
Like,
know.
it's just a little more critical. Nothing. you
Yeah.
know and then there's all these courses, like all these different courses where you like pay out another dollar or something is what it stands for, whatever it is, but it's like it's uh yeah, pay another dollar or something. But it's like that's I don't know, that's a good businessing market. It's like CrossFit too. It's like the same, they all follow the same business model to be able to squeeze as much money out of you as possible.
Correct.
Like once
And
you've
then
taken a basic diver class where like as I did I did the regular freediving class after like 20 years of diving because a friend in Guam was like, hey, do it. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I probably could learn something. And I did. And I
mhm,
learned something. It was cool. And then I came back. He was like, hey, you want to do the advanced course? And I was like, well, what? I mean, I've read enough about it. There's some like, and it was basically like the first class, we're going to withhold some information. Then we're going to sell you another class and give you that information. And
mhm.
nothing has changed in your diving
No,
other than the
nothing.
depth we're
And
going
you
to.
never feel more comfortable. So like we talked about a few minutes ago, and you said what is different from us is it's super mental, but I think the biggest thing is my personality, and I customize each person. So, like, I'll talk to you for months before you book a course or before you are able to come, and I'll sit down and I'll look at you, and I can read people very easily. I don't know if that's a personality trait. I don't know if that's my old job I used to do because that's all we did was try to sell our company and try to get the customers to pay us more money. And if we walked in their office and we noticed that they had a golf trophy, we would or a Cincinnati Bengals flag, we would say, "Oh, you like the Bengals?" So it's like
Oh, I understand.
you gotta figure people out. So
Oh, yeah.
in freediving, what that book is not going to teach you is every person is different, and you have to get in their mind and you have to create a stronger person. And if you just read the book and you say, well, this is biologically what'll work for you, and this is how the body works, and this is what you're supposed to do, it's like, well, what if that's a high anxiety person, or what if that's just like, what if they're a super lazy person and they're always tired, or they're hard to get motivated, or like, or they're a high stress person, or they can't. I got a lot of guys that'll just, they're businessmen and they're so caught up in their work that they can't fucking, they'll be in the pool and they'll just be like, I can't stop thinking about work. And I will tell them, dude, you're about to pay me all this fucking money. I'm gonna kick you out of this pool. You better quit fucking thinking about it. But the book won't tell you to do that. I'll bust your ass quick. So you have to get in people's head. You have to, like, literally slap them on the fucking wrist and say, quit fucking around and do it. There's a there's a lot of people that fail these courses, dude. A 60-foot dive, I'll tell you straight up, is a bitch dive. Like it's
Right.
nothing crazy. I've got like when I do these courses, I'll meet people at a bar, like because my one of my best buddies owns a restaurant. We'll pull in from the charters and go to his bar. And what do you guys do? Whatever. They'll come out
Yeah, I
there.
remember the pecker pick joke that you
Oh
did. Was that
yeah,
him?
yeah. Yeah, you put a pecker pick under his door and get a free appetizer.
Yeah.
Uh, it don't it never worked, but a lot of people did it.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
But we would just meet these people, and they're like, "Oh man, we're only here for 2 more days. We're from Kansas. We'd love to try." And all right, let's go out. And they're laying on the bottom at 65, 70 feet in a couple hours.
Right.
But it's it's how I presented it to them. I didn't tell them, now please, whatever you do, don't black out. This can kill you. And they're, it's like you don't tell people that right off the bat. So it works the same way when you're learning how to drive a car. Like I grew up on a farm. I drove everywhere from the day I was like 10 years old. My parents would let me sit on their lap and we'd drive around. And when we were 13, we'd drive our own car to town and all, like my mom would let us drive all by ourselves. I know kids now that are 17, 18 years old and they don't even have their permit yet because they're so scared to drive. So it's driving. So like when you go to the DMV and you take a course, it's the same course every other fucking person takes. But
Yeah.
it's not the course that Richard Petty took. You know what I mean?
Right. No, it makes sense.
So
So I've
it's
seen this really. I've seen what you're talking about is like. Can you hear me? Okay. Is it
I can
quiet?
hear you perfectly fine.
Okay. I've seen this before too, where it's like in the military, you know, they we go and there's all these guidelines. One time it took us like 2 hours to get the helicopter off the ground. And it was all
Mhm.
this, the loadmaster, this and that, and we were dealing with a Navy crew, right?
Mhm.
And it's funny though, because when you deal with at this particular crew, it could be a different crew, but we got this crew. Next crew was a marine aircraft and
And they say just
Marines.
fucking do it.
Yeah, because and the reason why you know your thresholds
Yep.
because when someone's shooting at you, you know you know like it's fucking go. We got to go. We don't have
Yeah.
time to be roll. Let's go. So we know
Yeah.
now that that'll work, right? It's like you learn anything, you learn everything by the numbers, and like you learn absolutes, right? That's what we say at a very very basic level is very absolute. It's the safest way to learn. But then
Mhm.
once you really understand the concepts, then you can obviously tweak things that before or have been written like absolutely don't do that.
Yes, it has to
Because
become natural.
yeah,
So with the Marines, everything becomes natural and everything is done like that. And with the Navy, everything's look at the book, are
we
we
have
doing
the
it right
time. Yeah, we
at
have
the
the
time?
time. We have the time, no big deal. But then if you
Yes.
go to a special operations group, they're like, no, dude, we can do this, we can do that. We know we've done that. It's fine. Every waiver, there's stacks of waivers for stuff that basically omits all the bullshit, all the stuff, because it's like, we gotta go. Like we don't have
We got
time
shit
to
to
wait
do.
any shit to do.
Yeah,
And that's a
so
lot
that's
of it.
where my mindset is I've got shit to do. So I've got guys that'll come to me that, man, I've been diving for 20 years before I even knew what this free diving was. I've been diving for 20 years and I wanna learn. Obviously, you're doing something different. And I'll be sitting there teaching him, and he'll say, "Yeah, but I think what you're telling me is super wrong because when we learned," I'm like, "What did you come here for?" You know what I mean? I got shit to do. I don't care what's in that stupid book. Like, we're obviously doing something different and we're pushing limits. Like I there's a fish down there and I want to kill it. So all this other shit is none of my business. But to me, comfort is what'll get you the longest way. You cannot be scared. You cannot be going down thinking about the pages in the book. You cannot be going down thinking about what's going to happen and what you're doing wrong. Because if you do that the whole time, your dive is done. Like
Right.
you got to go down with a mindset of I'm going down. I don't care what happens in between. I'm going down and I'm coming up. Other than that, I don't give a shit what happens because you've got your safety team.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's funny you
I
say that because like my mentor told me, "Hey, Brett, guys like us die in this sport because we dive alone. Sometimes we dive alone, which we should like you shouldn't do. We dive alone."
yeah
And he's like, "But our mindset is like, I'm gonna get that fucking fish. I don't care."
yeah
And then
yeah
that like can't quit, like can do attitude is what allows that to threshold to get crossed when you're diving by yourself and you
Yes.
don't have anybody planned. Like I've told myself when I'm like, I'm going 100 feet, I don't give a shit, I'm going. And it took
Yeah.
me a long time to learn like that mentality is exactly what you don't want to have going into your 100-foot dive. You just got to relax.
You
And
just gotta
part of the
relax.
you relax is because not knowing that, oh, I'm gonna black out if this happens. So what? You got a team
Yeah.
up, you know?
Yeah. And there's ways, there's ways to know that. It took me a really long time, man. I'm telling you, I used to be the worst diver ever, and I just couldn't figure out why I was so bad. Um, I was I was so bad that I had set in my mind, why, I live on the Gulf Coast. I can shoot groupers at 25 feet. Why the fuck are these guys trying to go 60? It's so stupid. These guys are idiots deep diving. Dude, I'm so different minded now. I was so wrong back in the day that it's crazy, but I'm willing to admit my wrongs. And I was just like, but then I was going past 60, and then I was like, oh man, I can go 80. And then there's different fish, and then 90, and then 100, and 120, 130, 140. I'm like, holy shit, when's this going to stop? But every time I get uncomfortable or I got uncomfortable, like I told you, I would come up and I would sit there on the surface and I'd say, okay, I went 70 feet and I'm really uncomfortable. How do I fix that? Instead of saying I can't get past 70, which is what most people say. They've come up to me and they'll say, I got a block that I can't get past. I'm fine. I feel comfortable at 55 to 60, but for some reason I can't get past 75 or 80. Um, and it took me days of looking at myself saying, what do I do to fix this? And I would fix it. And then I'd go to 90 and the same thing would happen. What do I do to fix this? And I would fix it. So then I would start diving with people. I would go down and I'd look at them and I'd look at my watch and they're at 60, 70, 80, 90. And I'd notice everything that they were doing. It put it into a reality for me, how I looked underwater, because I had to figure it out myself. I would say, here's what you're doing wrong. Do this your next dive and you'll get 20 more feet. And they would do it 20 more feet laying on the bottom, not touching a plate, racing up, like laying on the bottom. And dude, I'm talking simple changes like don't bite your jaw. I can see your muscles in your face when you're biting your jaw. I can see your eyes. I can see your eye like lifting up when you're looking for the bottom. All that shit, if you just adjust it, tweak, 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 just like a fine-tuned motor on a car. If you turn one little screw, you'll get 10 more horsepower. So if you tweak all this stuff, you're reducing your stress level. So every little thing you reduce as you're going down, if you don't immediately turn back up and say, I can't do it, if you just sit there for a second and say, what on my body is stressed? All the way from your hair follicles down to your toenails, what feels like it's exerting energy right now? If you fix that and you don't exert that energy, it's another 10 feet. It's another 10 feet. So that's the the problem with most people is they don't have the mindset to say, what am I doing wrong? They just have the mindset to say something's wrong and I can't handle the pressure or I don't want to fix it. So so that's what the book won't teach you. The book can't tell you, hey man, when you're going down, your eyes are open really wide. You need to close your eyes. The book can't see what you're doing underwater. So you have to be able to personalize yourself with the client and with the diver and say, look, quit fucking doing this. I know you're telling me it's not working for you. I know you're telling me you can't clear. Everybody says, I can't clear my ears past a certain depth. Well, you can't clear your ears past a certain depth because you're doing this wrong. If you don't do that, your ears will clear immediately, you know? So it's, and then you've got the free dive hippies that are, you have to learn how to do frenzel and you got to learn how to do all that. Like, no, you don't. So I don't it's just too much, man. It's a raw dog sport, you know what I mean? When it's back to NASCAR. You have to know how to push the gas pedal. Like go fucking fast. And in freediving, if you learn too much, you get way worse. So the bottom line is just don't be a pussy. Just figure it out. Um when something goes wrong, don't give up, figure it out, and it's all about muscle relaxation. You guys in California, with the big guns, you can tell me all you want to. I get it. The guns shoot great, right? They shoot from here to goddamn fucking New Mexico. I'm in Florida. They'll shoot. I can shoot a fish from Florida and California with the guns you guys use, but I can't dive 150 feet with those fucking guns. You know,
Yeah,
I'd
I've
rather
never
get
had that problem. That's
yeah.
probably
So I'd
why.
rather there's a reason when you look at it. If you just say, well, the Italians are really good divers, and the Greek guys are really good divers, and all of these guns that are designed that way are coming out of these countries. You know, why don't they use a big 12 band fucking gun? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In California, like it's just a different environment. But like you guys are a thing over there, like the Baja guys, where like an 80-foot drop to guys on your coast is like considered deep. You know, and like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
right, it's
Yeah, that's
it's like
deep
oh
for me. I
deep
mean,
dropping today.
some people maybe not, but I mean, for me, anything past 60, like
Yeah,
diving,
it's considered
is
a deep
is
drop.
deep because I
Yeah,
mean, basically the way we hunt here is everything is the thermocline or above. I mean, for the
yeah,
most part, all of our fish are big here, and they're
yep,
all pretty damn shallow.
yeah.
So it's like we have not been raised to, maybe the newer guys have, but I would say the older guys that we haven't been raised to have to do drops past 60, really, because the kelp grows in about 60 feet of water, you
Yeah.
know?
But the mindset of like and the popular guys is went deep dropping today or whatever, and it's like it's
Right.
60 to 80, and it's like over here on the Gulf, an 80-foot drop is like it's literally a warm up for us. Like we'll start in 80 and then we'll go start working out. And I don't want to promote that to kids and say, "Oh, just go do this." But what I'm saying is it's who teaches you and who you learn from and who you originally meet that says, "Well, I'm going to go this direction and I'm going to go this direction." So,
Well,
so
along those lines, right, is like people, I've noticed this a trend too, is like, oh, drops to 80,
but I pulled the trigger at
pull the
65.
trigger here or
Yeah,
whatever it was,
yeah,
right? And it's like, number one, like, I mean, if you're proud of yourself, I get it, right? Because you're like, dude, this is a really deep drop for me. Like, um, fuck, more power to you, man. That's awesome. If you're doing it to try to like show up, like you look like a clown because there's some free diver out there. There's always somebody better than you, right?
correct.
So like, why are you like boasting about doing this or that? Like, I know somebody that's, he's like my deepest trigger pull, my deepest trigger pull yet was at 120. And I think he legitimately was saying that to be like, wow, I'm getting better at diving. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
So,
That's cool. But I've seen the other side of it where it's like, yeah, no big deal, 80 feet today, And I'm
uh
like,
huh.
yeah, that's cool for me, dude. But like, I know guys that will fucking drop way past that, 200 feet,
Well,
So it's like,
and the problem with the guys that do that and they have that attitude is those are the guys that are so quick to tell people how to dive. And it's like, so
yeah,
it's like, like, yeah, man, good job. You shot a fish at 80 feet. We're stoked for you, whatever, whatever. But like, at least have the decency or the professionalism to say, like, that was pretty deep for me, but I'm proud of myself for doing it. But don't ask me for diving advice. Like, there's better people, but they
yeah,
don't do that.
yeah,
I forget what course it is. I forget what course it is, but you can go online and like, it literally says right on the website, are you a beginner freediver? Take your course now, and in 3 days you can become a trainer. And it's like that's a problem, you know. So,
yeah. I don't know I don't know. That's kind of scary.
have you ever heard the story about why, like, what got me into this? Like, I don't know if you have. I posted it a few times or whatever, but um, like I told you, where I grew up, these kind
Right.
of fish weren't an option.
Yeah.
So when
The
I,
Wahoo. I know the Wahoo story.
yeah, you know the wahoo story, where
Yeah.
I thought it was a barracuda.
Yeah.
So I shot a wahoo with a scuba gun, no reel, no float line, scuba fins. I was wearing a button-down shirt, pair of khaki shorts, and
Attaboy.
this old boy said we were on a weed line in South Florida, with some friends, and I bought my first boat, and he said jump in on that and see what's down there. Sometimes there's fish, and I shot this fish, and I thought it was a barracuda. So I'm holding it up. We all thought it was a barracuda. I'm holding it up for pictures and whatever. And I go to the dive shop where I bought the AB Biller spear gun. And I showed him. He said, "Dude, that's a wahoo." You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
"What's a wahoo?" So there was an old man in there, um, that owned a wetsuit company, and he was telling me all about it. and he owns a free dive wetsuit company that's not real popular, but it's a South Florida thing. And he also is a GC, of course. Um, so he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "I can't make the trip, but there's a group of people called Blue Water Spearfishers," and he's like, "I'll link you up with them. They're going to Panama in like 2 weeks." And I was like, "I'll go to Panama in 2 weeks." And that's when I went to Panama. That's when I met Terry Moss and Sherry Day and and Colleen and all them. So, but what got me into this sport was I shot a barracuda and I thought it was wahoo, and I realized how friggin' retarded I was, you know. And I'm like, I want to learn everything about this. This is really cool. And dude, I was like 25 years old, 26 years old, you know? So, I may have been a little bit younger than that, but either way, I didn't grow up. I'm born and raised Florida, but I did not grow up a saltwater ocean boy. I didn't know you could put more than one motor on a boat. I didn't know any of this stuff. And now I'm driving boats for guys that have, you know, 5, 6 engines on them. We're all over the world. It's just wild where it takes you when you're honest with people, you know?
Well, yeah, and I mean, having I grew up inland Orange County, which is like, Anaheim. It's just not at the ocean, and but the thing is, like, then we moved to Tennessee when I was young and fished every day, and kind of when I was like 3 to 5, fell in love with fishing and all of that. But what I found with the spearfishing thing is that really, until you get out from underneath your parents' thumb, they're not exactly just going to let you go figure out spearfishing.
Right?
Like my parents were not hovering parents, but like I'd go to the beach and surf all the time. But it's not like, how are you going to learn about spearfishing? Especially
Yeah.
back then. This is in the late '80s, or '90s. Like, yeah, I got scuba certified because there was courses and stuff. But like, really, it took me till I was, came home from the army like 20 something years old, like 21, 22, before I was like, yeah, I'm going for it. Like, I'm doing
Yeah.
my own. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of opportunity, but when you're young like that, usually young and broke and trying to figure out things and go to school and pay stuff and all of that. So you don't necessarily have the luxury I do, like I'm at 40, where it's like, oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. And see, when I grew up too, like the trips that we did go to the Keys I told you about,
Right.
um, in the Keys, have you ever been there?
No, I've never been.
Okay, so like when you go to the Keys, if you go to the Gulf side of the Keys, it's basically like grass flats the whole time and super shallow. And
I've
then
watched a lot
you'll,
of fishing shows on it, like bonefish and tarpon,
yeah. So
all in
it kind of
there.
looks like
Yeah.
that. You can see the whole bottom, super shallow, 4 or 5 feet deep, and then you'll just see a dirt spot in the middle of nowhere. Usually, you just stand up on the top of the boat and look, and that dirt spot is little caves in the ground with lobster. Well, when you swim over to the hole, you park the boat outside of it, and when you swim over to the hole, there's always a red grouper. So my parents would let us shoot the red grouper, and dude, until I started this company and getting all into it, I didn't. I'll be dead honest with you, man. I didn't even know I didn't even know there was regulations for fish or anything. Like I'm talking, we shot groupers like this. I
Right.
didn't know there was a size limit, but like that's what I grew up doing, you know. So like when I
Yeah.
started, and I same thing with turkeys. Like the reason I'm getting really big into hunting now. I grew up in the woods, deer all over our backyard, hogs everywhere, turkeys everywhere. I didn't know that you weren't allowed to shoot deer out of your car window at night. I didn't know you weren't allowed to shoot turkeys out of trees. I grew up doing that, and I
I
just
can
started.
relate to exactly what you're saying on a couple of things, like exactly what you're saying. When I was at work, we just did things, right? So
You
it's
just do
like,
things,
yeah, because that's just what we did. I mean, so it's like people were like, "Oh, what are the?" I'm like, "I don't know anything I've gotten. What's the regulation for this?" I've always gotten stuff way bigger than that because we were just doing it like the work,
right?
like where we
Yeah.
were. I
So
never even thought about it.
you're just doing it because you're having fun and it's a
Yeah.
good time for you, and all you care about is your experience at the time. And like with hunting right now, like I'm up here in Georgia at a guy's place learning about how to make deer's antlers grow bigger and how to get their genetics better and all this, because I'm like, dude, I grew up in the woods where people would dream, deer hunters would dream to live, and
Right.
I never knew about deer hunting until now. Um, but everything I did was illegal. We would ride up and down the road in my mom's Crown Victoria and shoot deer out of her passenger side window, and I thought that was how you deer hunted, you know?
Yeah.
So but and with spearfishing, even when I first got into it, like when I first bought my boat and I was like, I'm gonna take people out spearfishing, and I met Colleen and Terry and all them. I took them out. Dude, I was just so excited to be doing this. I didn't know there was regulations. I didn't know there was permits. I didn't know anything. I was just wanting. I was so new into it. I was wanting to have fun. So we were shooting groupers so illegal. We were shooting everything we seen, but we had a damn good time. So the problem nowadays is fucking social media. Like, you can't let people have fun anymore, and nobody will say, like, I get it, man. I'll reach out to someone and I'll say, hey, man, you do your thing. I'm never gonna like call FWC. I don't know what you guys have in California, but like the
Yeah,
laws,
fishing game. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fishing game. You don't call them and say or tag them in pictures, and just you reach out to the younger generation or the older generation that doesn't know, and you say, hey, just so you know, I'm glad you're having a great time. I'm glad you're into sport, but you might want to watch it. Social media is a deadly animal.
Yeah,
But
we
what was
we've had guys post about, like, before. I mean, like I say, the dudes in the Navy, sometimes they come here and they're divers or SEALs or whoever, but they're from Ohio, and they'll
yeah,
post, like, they got, like, 30 lobsters laid out on the deck. I'm like,
right?
hey, boys," like,
Yeah, and
probably
and and
not wanna,
and they don't mean
step
no
in.
harm. Like they don't know, dude. They're so excited. It's just you would probably do the same thing if you went to Ohio, like geese hunting or something. You'd
Oh,
fucking load your
100%.
shotgun and shoot everything you saw. But but in
Yeah.
spearfishing, and every hunting's the same way. Like last year, Chelsea shot 2 turkeys at one time, and we videoed the whole thing. We were so fucking excited. It was her first turkeys and on her dad's property and all this. And then like everybody, you can't fucking shoot two at one time. It's like
Yeah.
it was one bullet. Like it was a fucking accident. But like what's the big fucking deal? Let the girl have fun. Why
Well,
you
I
gotta teach
think
them?
too, the argument, especially, I know how Florida is probably a little different too, but here the big thing is there's so much pressure on the fish for here, um, because the population is so big, where every
Yeah,
yahoo and their brother goes out and starts shooting everything up. And it's one thing if people just legitimately don't care, and it's another thing if someone just doesn't know, right? So it's like you said, like I always try to approach it like, hey, just FYI, I remember being a kid and being stoked that I just shot this perch. Is there a
yeah,
limit on a perch? I had no idea. Even after my
yeah,
son shot, I don't know, because that's not something like we really targeted or really like put too much effort into. Um, we were just kids. But then, like now, that my son and I could get fined for it, I looked into it and I was like, oh yeah, like I guess perch. Okay,
yeah. And and
oh,
and that's a big problem is people don't realize that you don't have to be just a kid to make a
right.
mistake. Like you can just be an outsider that doesn't fucking know what you're doing, like I was. But everybody
Yeah.
assumed because I'm from Florida, because I owned a boat, you're supposed to know all the rules. Like, bitch, I just got this fucking boat. I'm so excited that I have more than 25 cents in a bank account. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let us do our thing. But they don't let you do your thing. What they do is they create a spearfishing poachers page, and they create a spearfishing goons page, and a spearfishing kooks page, and this
The
page.
Coos
Yeah,
page, yeah. Well,
yeah,
what
and
do
it's
you
like
say, like, to like, because I know my friends in Hawaii, right? Because that's just, they deal with that 24/7. In Hawaii, I'm always on the thing of like, okay, as a respect thing, and then maybe this is just because I'm older, or you learn, like, because we're older, when you go somewhere, just check with the locals first, ask a local dive shop, just check what the rule is. Because I know when I was in Hawaii diving 10 years ago, like apparently there's a rule, you have to have a dive flag up. You can't just have a float. Like I
yeah,
had no idea. And someone's like, yeah, you fucking goon. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay, dude. Sorry.
yeah,
Like, all
yeah.
right. I didn't know, dude. Like, okay, sure, bro.
Yeah, so that's where, you know, the social media thing has gone from being an informational tool to just an ego tool. So like these
Yeah.
guys that are in the sport, like say you have a guy, I don't know California people, but a lot of people are inspired to do the sport by the most popular people, as was I. I was
Right.
inspired to do the sport by one of the most popular guys in it. Come to find out was a fucking goon. But
It's a lot of power when you
it's
have
it's a
that kind of, like, I joke
it
around
is.
with my
So
wife even about like, at 10,000 followers, it's like a stadium full of people that actually pay attention to what I'm fucking saying.
100%.
That's kind of
Yeah.
scary. So I'm like,
So so the
yeah,
problem is though is like is there's our generation and there's the new, and there's a difference in men and boys. And the boys on Instagram don't know how to be men, and all they want to do is be cool, but
Right.
they don't want to be informational, and it's not cool to go on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and say, "Hey, here's a 10-minute uh, orientation of the rules and regulations of California and what you're allowed to shoot and how many you're allowed to shoot and what time of year you're allowed to shoot." Have you ever fucking seen one of the most popular guys do that? No. All they
No.
do is they hold up their biggest fish with their watch and their big gun and who I'm sponsored by. But that's not informational. It's attracting new people to the sport, which is great, but it's not informational. So that guy that comes into the sport because of that picture is just going to go out and shoot anything, and he's just having a damn good time in good form. I hope he shoots a fucking manatee, but he doesn't know any better. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, there's a
So
here's the thing is too, there's vulnerability, right? Like as you
yes,
grow up, you've seen a lot of stuff in life. And this is what I've kind of learned in the last few years, like last couple of years I get into, because like I was raised very differently with my dad, like where there's emotion, like don't be a bitch, don't cry, whatever it is,
hmm,
whatever, right? Well, what I have learned in my older years, I guess, that I've worked really hard to be more of is be vulnerable. That's okay. Like at work, I have no problem saying I don't know something, but
hmm,
also being like when you're posting stuff, like, um, why do people feel the need to embellish things is beyond me. Like when you're
yeah,
posting stuff and what you're talking about, it's like, um, I know, and I've been very clear about this. I've hunted white sea bass for years, and you know how many I've landed? Fucking zero. And people right now are like, "Kook," and
yeah,
I'm like, "Okay, let's think about let me think about that." And I asked my friend about it, who's an islander. I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm kinda, like, embarrassed because I feel like people are gonna, like, this or that." And he's like and he explained it to me. He's like, "Are you serious? No one on my island would think like that in a million years. Like,
yeah.
someone spends a because you didn't do that." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm implementing my Southern California lifestyle growing up, like, on my own shit." But at some point, it's like, who fucking cares? Like,
That's
you
it,
know
man.
who you
It's
are. Who really cares?
yep.
Like, and why are you posting the stuff to fill some sort of void? Or are you posting
That's
it to help? Like honestly, it's I've asked myself that question. Why do I care about
yeah,
posting stuff? Because I didn't care about social media at all. And then
yeah.
so why do I care? I'm like, well, I've answered that question myself quite a bit and like I've kind of talked about it, but there is a sense of vulnerableness that you've got to be okay with and knowing I know who the fuck I am. Like I'm good. Like,
Yeah, well,
um,
and social media is such a powerful animal now that these people don't realize that their little thumbs touching that screen, what it can do to someone's life, you know? So it's like, just, I always get, I wouldn't say attacked, but, Charlie's a fucking asshole and all he wants to do is fucking fight everybody. It's like, no, because where I grew up, dude, like if you had a problem with someone or you did something wrong, you handled it. And
yep.
then and it was settled right there. And on social media, that problem continues for the rest of your life. And what you don't realize is just someone tagging a 17-year-old kid in a picture because he shot an illegal fish and FWC goes and busts his ass. That's on his record forever. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
why would you
Yeah.
why would you do that? Like what's your problem? So but people feel so fucking powerful online and calling people kooks and calling people poachers and calling people all this stuff.
That's
It's
because they've
like
never been punched in the face or never
it's
been in
because
a
they've never been punched
situation.
in the face. Yes.
Yeah.
So and then when you say, "Hey man, I'm about to fucking next time I see you at one of these expos or whatever, I'm about to break your fucking nose. I'm gonna call my fucking lawyer." Or if I just
Yeah.
snapshot that. It's like,
Wait,
okay,
wait.
well,
Yeah, I know your son is your son, right?
yeah,
Is your son,
Sawyer.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's young. I'll just tell you, be patient. It's
Yeah.
amazing that I am not in jail right now and having 3 children, still pushing them through. But, if it wasn't for my wife, like, honestly, because it's amazing the way adults that have never had their ass kicked or don't handle things like that, um, act even towards children, like
Correct.
coaches,
Yep.
mentors, teachers, whatever. And I'm like, my house growing up, maybe because my brother and I were abused, but whatever. But maybe,
Yeah.
but I mean, like with my growing up, and then I moved with my dad. But like my dad was very strict about that stuff, and you had to handle your shit like a man. And I remember somebody was messing with my stepsister, and my brother and my dad drove up to their house, knocked on the door, says, "I need to speak to you and your father." And
Yeah.
like they didn't come outside, and my dad was no bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
but I remember growing up and I learned that too because my friends that I surrounded myself with, like playing college football or whatever it was, like my military buddies, like it's the same thing. Like, man, I would never do that to anybody because I would expect that man to come to my house and kick my ass.
Yeah.
Like, so why would you? But I see people like talking shit, and I'm like, man, this dude's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
And
dude,
it's
put
when I
out
first
there what you get back is like, the karma thing is real too. That's
when
another.
I first started, man, I'm very and still to this day, I mean, look how long it took us to get me on this fucking Zoom meeting. I am horrible with computers and all, like
Me
you see
too.
my social media stuff, I don't even have YouTube. I can't hang my Facebook. I have a friend running it for me because I don't know how to log into it. Like I'm just really bad. But when I first got on social media and I didn't realize because I grew up in a small town, I didn't realize how dangerous social media is and how little people are. And I would get mad, bro. Like I would go on rants, and I created an animal.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
would get,
I know.
I
My
would get,
wife would have to calm me down
yeah, I would
because
get
I take
so
that shit
fucking
so
mad,
fucking
dude.
personally.
I took it personally.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it was eating me up at night. Like, I'm gonna find this motherfucker, and like, so like,
100%, man.
and then you
It's
start
so funny here.
commenting, you start commenting back and forth, and like, I did it
Yeah,
for a long time, dude. I was like.
yeah,
It wasn't until, like, my pages got deleted and all that, I'm like, "My business is doing better. My personality is better. I'm more like, I wrapped up so much time into arguing with people online I'm never gonna meet,
yeah.
ever," It's
Well,
like, it's
people
just
have the fake because I learned from my kids, it's funny. They have the fake accounts and
the
they'll just
fake
throw like
account.
I call it a hand grenade in the room just to
Yeah,
get people fired up and then people start fighting. And like
yeah,
my buddy John really gave me a good advice because he's a little younger than me and he grew up a little differently maybe. I don't know, he's much more mellower than I am and I'm pretty mellow. I just don't like to be fucked with, like, period. Um but like he said, somebody said, "Hey, F you, I hope you die," or something when he posted something about like lures, right?
yeah,
And his response was, "Cool, thanks," or something like
yeah,
that. Just short,
yeah,
and I just kind of cracked up and I was like, "Man, I wish I could be like," because I'd be like, "You want to come to my house, motherfucker? I'll meet you right
yeah.
now." Like,
So
where his responding like that was just beautiful because it really was like, why do you care about what, I don't know. It's like the old guys now, like you and I guess they're learning how to deal with the social media fallout of certain things. And
yeah,
especially when you really care and what you put out there to you, there's meaning behind every kind of piece of stuff you try to put out and helps people and you try to be genuine. And then someone's like, "Yeah, you goon." I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" Like, but then in the grand scheme of things, you get older, you're like, "Yeah, I'm a good dude." Anyways, moving on. Like, who
yeah,
cares?
exactly. So let me tell you a little story about, um, I love my customers and I hate my customers all in a way. This sport is very personalized, like I said. So like by the time I'm done teaching someone and taking someone on a trip, you're kind of like this, like I just taught you, you trust me with your life. I just spent 10 to 12 days with you in a foreign country by ourselves, like you become best friends pretty much. And
Right.
and that's why I love this sport so much is because after that, you guys know each other like the back of your hand. What I hate about it is when you're best friends, then all of a sudden you owe them the world and they don't ever want to hey man, like we've been best friends for 10 days, so can I get this kind of discount? That's why, so like
Yeah, I've seen all the
there's
posts.
there's that level, yeah.
Yeah.
But when I first got into this, doing I did all this traveling by myself, and I had like one or two friends come with me. I had my little GPS. I had some friends give me hints on like cool spots to go to or hookups, and I would go. Um, and I was diving by myself, finding I was the bottom finder, so like I would dive down. Yeah, man, there's fish here, and we'd mark it on the boat, and
I
and then
remember those days. Yeah.
I would start bringing people there, right? So this was after I told you, like, I was shooting small fish. I went to the Bahamas, with a charter. I paid a charter to go to the Bahamas. An old boy said, he's like, "Hey, man, you're not allowed to use spear guns in the Bahamas." First time I've ever been to my Bahamas in my life. I think it was like 26 or 27. Um, he said, when you go to the Bahamas, you're not allowed to have spear guns. But on the way, he's like, you can shoot. I told him my wahoo story. He's like, you can shoot wahoo and mahi mahis in the Gulf Stream. So he's like, when you get to the Bahamas, you have to take your shafts out, um, and tell the guy on the dock and all this. He told us all the rules. So we paid him the money. We went on a Bahamas charter. And I didn't know. I didn't at this time. I didn't know there was hogfish in Florida. I thought you could only go to the Bahamas and get them. So we went to the Bahamas, and I told you I owned a welding and machining business. So I had the guys at the power plant make pole spears, and we brought these homemade
Nice.
pole spears. Super junk, it cost me like 8 grand to do it, and I've probably got 60 pole spears in my garage right now that are pieces of junk that I don't know what to do with. Like, nobody wants them. There's all these good ones now. Like, so anyway, but we
If anybody
shot.
wants a pole spare, hit up
Yeah,
Charlie.
please hit me up and you can figure out how to make it work. But but I brought my nephew and a couple business partners, and all that, and we went over there and we shot hogfish. And dude, I mean, we shot a big one for me. Like, I've never seen a fish that big. And we were so excited, man. Like, it was me and my little nephew. We were holding the fish up on the front of the boat. We were in the Bahamas. It's the first time I ever left the country. Like, it was just a
Right.
wild experience for me. But guess what was in the back of the picture on
Spear
the
gun.
deck of the boat? A fucking spear gun. So, do you think I got to live that down? Do you think someone called me and said, "Hey, man, just so you know, like, I don't know if you guys shot it with a spear gun or what." Do you think they had a man-to-man conversation? No. The first thing you are is a poacher in the fucking Bahamas and yada yada yada, And it's like, so I that shit right there, dude, fired me up, right? Like, I'm ready to fucking fight. Cause like because I didn't do anything illegal, but I did. Like, now looking back, like, you're not allowed to have fucking guns in the Bahamas. Like, but I paid a charter. I did what I was told. But it's like,
Right.
why wouldn't someone just say, "Hey, man, you can't do that. Maybe take that picture down," but
Yeah.
you're immediately a fucking felon, which technically, like I was telling you before, like, that could ruin someone's life for a very long time, you know?
Right,
So,
right. I've had a
so
few people message me. There's a few guys that have reached out, which have been really cool, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah," and I talked about it, you know?
and respectfully, yes,
Yeah,
and it's like
yeah,
you're not ready to say, "Motherfucker, I'm about to beat your ass,"
right.
but so so here's what happened was I kind of put all that behind me, and I started this company, and I had guys messaging me saying, "Hey, man, I want to do this trip you're doing. I only have 2 weeks off. Let's do this." So I bring these guys to Costa Rica, right?
Uh-huh.
This dude who I've never met in my life, we're on our way to Costa Rica, and he's getting these phone calls, and he's getting all these messages saying, "Dude, if you go with that fucking guy, you guys are going to jail." And it's like, these people are still doing this shit, and I don't even know who they are. And it's the one guy I told you about that. He's always, if you look online, he's always on people's pictures. He's always messaging. This is a 50-year-old guy, and it's like, you're
Yeah,
not being
I
a
think I
mentor.
know who you yeah,
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. But
yeah,
you're not being an inspiration or a mentor in the sport, and you're not saying, "Hey, learn from this." You're not teaching the younger generation. You're not making informational posts. You're just attacking, 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 and you're living off of that. So you have to know people make fucking mistakes. Um,
Well,
so
there's another problem in this whole spearfishing industry thing, and it's that people are under the assumption that everybody wants a piece of the pie, and there's not enough of the piece of the
there's
pie
not
for
enough fucking pie,
everybody.
dude.
So, yeah, so people are starting to stab each other, kill each other, anything to get that fucking piece of the pie.
It's
And I'm
ridiculous,
like, if
man.
you want it, fucking take it, man. Like, I
Yeah,
don't, I'm not making my living off this, like for me personally, but
yeah.
there's a way to do it and a way not to do it, you know?
Yeah, so I'm a very I don't I'm gonna sound like a retard here for this, but I'm a very vengeant, if that's a word, person. I live off of vengeance. Like, so all because of that kind of stuff and me thinking these people are the best in the world, like, because I couldn't fight them, which I still want to do, but because I couldn't fist fight them, I
Uh-huh.
want to be way better. I want to be, so the
100%.
the
That's
person
that.
I am
Yeah.
now, the diver I am now, if you challenge me and you come on the boat and you out dive me, out fish me, whatever, we are going to be best friends for the next couple of years. I'm going to shake your hand and say, God damn, you're a badass. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
you see my stuff all the time, and I always invite people, the world's best, world's most famous freedivers, come on my boat. I love to dive with you. How many super, super popular you ever see come on the boat? They don't, because they don't want the challenge. They want the popularity, you know?
Well, it's
So,
funny because the people we were talking about originally, you're talking about like Terry Moss and Sherry Day and Colleen and those guys. Like some of those guys, the majority of those, the people I mentioned, like they're not all over social media. They're really
no,
they
they don't give a
are
they
because of
hate it, bro.
virtue.
They're smarter than us.
Right? Yeah, exactly. They are because of other people are like, oh, learn from this person or what, but they're really not.
Yeah.
But it's like this second generation of guys that are like, it's the land grab. It's the digital. I've talked about it with my buddy John. It's like a digital land grab, dude. It's like
Yep.
there's so much this pie left. Even though I kind of think there's enough pie for everybody, this sport, there's like 30 of us that do it. So if you want to be rich doing the sport, then probably should go do something else. I mean,
Yeah, the second generation you're talking about are the
yeah,
fucking assholes
yeah,
because they learned from the OGs, Terry Moss, Daryl Wong, Sherry Day. They learned from all of them and they respected them and they kind of took it to the next level. Then there's these new kids coming out, the new kids on the block, and the new kids on the block are killing these guys, and these guys can't fucking handle it. So they're not being like Terry Moss and all them and saying, man, you guys, Terry will literally walk up to you and say, man, you guys took that shit a little bit crazy. You guys are badasses. He'll say that
yeah.
to my
I've
generation.
never heard a bad thing about Daryl Wong either.
You never will, dude.
That
Daryl is the
guy's,
nicest soul on the
yeah,
planet. And
right.
Daryl will walk up to, I rent houses with Daryl when we do the Blue Wild and stuff. And Daryl will say, man, the stuff you guys are doing now is insane. But he doesn't say what the second generation is saying to the third generation spear diver, which is
Right.
you little fucking punk kook bitch. Like
Yeah.
he would just say, like, man, you guys are killing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's zero
Everybody
respect.
calm down. Everybody
Everybody
calm
calm
down.
down a notch and just let people have some fucking fun.
Yeah.
And there's a point in time where you can learn from the kids. Like the sport is
Right.
evolving. So we're
You
not
learned that when I was
evolving
doing
with the sport.
jujitsu and the younger kids started just whooping my ass. And I
Yeah, dude.
realized what it was that they're just more explosive. They're
Yeah.
physically stronger, or maybe not even stronger, but they're just more explosive. They're quicker. They have more time to train and all this
Well, they're
other
learning
stuff.
at a younger generation, so their body can handle. Like me and you started. I started learning at 30 years old. And these kids are learning at 14, 15. So they're picking up at such a younger age, and their mind is accepting more knowledge. And me and you we're old dog learning new tricks type shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, yeah.
it's our body can't keep up with what we're trying to learn with. So I've got a couple kids that I've trained um, that I started training them at like 13, 14 years old, and they only come out with me and dive with me. But like, dude, when I'm trying to go hang with them, like video or whatever, I'm like, you little motherfucker, dude, I can't hang with you, dude. But they're just beasts, man. They're everything about them is they're just younger. It's a thing.
Right.
So
Yeah. So does
but
that mean that you're a less of a spear fisherman because you can't hang with them? You know what I mean?
no,
Like
exactly
people
right.
just that's a whole mindset of like, oh, okay, yeah, I can't do that. Oh, well,
Yeah,
you're a kook. No, not real. I
exactly.
mean,
So
okay,
one of my introduction to the class, and when I ask people, it's always it is a business and it is a class. So I tell people, why are you here and what's your goals, and then I'll tell them why I'm here. My goal as a I guess you can call me an instructor, but my goal teaching people is to make them better than me. If I can only go to 140 at that day, I fucking hope they go to 150. I'm not going to say I'm cutting you off at 140. I'm like,
right,
you go to 150 and tell me what it's like. So,
yeah,
and the other problem I keep saying the 150 number about is social media and the lies. You see a lot of guys lately on on the channels doing these crazy deep dives, right? I was one of the guys that I pushed myself to limits like you wouldn't believe to try to figure out how the fuck are guys getting that deep. And then you just do simple, like humans are stupid. I'll say that, including myself. We are all stupid until the day we die. But if you just put two and two together and be like, it just took me this long to get to this depth, you know, and this long to get back up. And then you watch the video and it's like before editing came out, it's like this motherfucker was down there in 20 seconds. Like, how did he do that? But he's never gonna say on social media, never gonna say, hey, I had a 25-pound weight attached to my weight belt and I unhooked it when I got down there. The problem is I was
Yeah,
one of the
variable.
dumb
Yeah.
variable weights.
Yeah.
I ask all my students, do you know what variable weight is? No. You know, but I want to dive 140 feet. Well, do you know what variable weight is? No. It's like, well, that's why these guys won't say that on YouTube because they want the power of saying I did a 140-foot free dive, but they don't show the weight clip to their back. They don't show any of that.
Yeah, but the
So you
funny thing
got
about that is I did 150. So okay, like that's awesome. But like, why does that matter if you did or didn't? Shouldn't it only matter to you? Because I don't really don't give a shit. Because that's so unattainable for me.
but it's
Like in
not
my mind.
informational. It's not
Yeah.
informational. So that's the problem with social media. Is it's super cool that you did that dive and stoked
Right.
for you that you did it no matter how you did it. But tell us how you did it and give me the option to
Yeah.
know if I want to do it or not.
You don't
And
have
the
to
problem
lie
is
about something.
you don't have to lie about something. And
Yeah.
the problem I had was I was about to kill myself trying to figure out how to do it because I didn't know that you could do this variable weight thing. So I was going out doing 140-foot dives on my own power and like with a spear gun. And I'm like, how are these fucking guys making it look easy and laying on the bottom? You know? And then, like I told you, dude, I am bad, bad, bad with editing pictures, yada yada yada. So then I'm watching the videos. I'm like, God damn it, that motherfucker's down there a long time, you know?
Right.
And like
Yeah.
really down there a long time. And then if you start watching the video and really studying things, because I was going to kill myself trying to figure out how to hang, you'll start listening to the video and listening to the rocks crackling. And it's like when you're underwater, it's like,
Right.
oh, slow motion, you know? So like they're, they're not down there that long. They're not laying on the bottom for 45 seconds. They're probably down
Yeah.
there 12 or 15. But I was trying to lay on the bottom for 45 seconds just because I didn't look at watches. I was just like looking at the little clock on the video saying, how the fuck is he down there for 45 seconds at 150 feet? There's no way. So
Well, I think
it's
everybody's done that, including myself. Like to where
yeah,
you're watching, like Adam Stern, right, do his 300-foot drop or something, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, I'm gonna hold my breath and visualize I'm doing that dive without him to see how it feels, and see how if I could do it physically right here.
yeah.
The
And you
only
can't.
thing, yeah, yeah, and then he's legit. But I mean, like, but then you watch, like you said, some of these guys, you're like, wait a second, hold on. And I've found myself doing it where it's like, oh, I want to show this thing and show that, and I'm like, oh, it looks better if you slow it down because you could the camera focus is better or whatever. But then you don't think about some kid at home going, dude, I'll never be able to dive like Brett. Brett sucks. Like, but
Yeah.
you just think that I'm a good diver because whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, so that's so my thing with the classes is being very honest with people. Like, look, if you want to do this 150-foot dive, I'm not going to tell you you can't do it because you're your own person, and I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to help you do it and all this, but I'm going to tell you how we do it. I'm going to tell you the easiest way to do it. I'm not going to say on your first day. Like everybody asks me, how do your clients get to 100 feet on the first day? Most of the time, I grab them by the damn feet and their hip and I push them to like 60 or 70 just to let them feel the pressure. And then I give them one big burst and they're like, now you can't give me any excuses about your ears not clearing or, whatever, whatever. Now you know you can do it. Now you got to go sit on the boat for a minute and say, well, I fucking did it. Now how do I do it myself? But but you have to be honest with people right off the bat and say, this is how we did it. Now let's upgrade from there to do it on your own power. But just me watching social media videos and YouTubes and all that now, it's very, very, very misinformational. And nobody's willing to teach anybody because whatever they figured out, they want to hold on to it so they're the best. And they're not letting kids upgrade, or not even kids, they're not letting new people into the sport upgrade their knowledge. And it's little things like you said, like California getting overfished or whatever, whatever. And it's not if you it is, but it's not if you are more informational, you know? So like
Yeah.
if you tell these people what they want to hear versus just post pictures and just say, this is a nice, what do you call it, yellowtail kingfish, go shoot them. They're going to go shoot whatever
Yeah.
they see.
A big
But
topic here is sheep's head too,
sheep's
California
head,
sheep's head, right?
sheep's
Because
head.
they have an impact on the environment where if
Yeah,
they eat the urchins and then people say you shouldn't shoot them, some people shoot them. There's all these kinds of thing, and my whole thing is, if you're not breaking any law, then do what you want. Just
that's it.
understand when you pull the trigger, what like there's a spot that I dive, it's loaded with like medium-sized sheep's head males. So it's like almost and they all we go down there and I'm like, man, people would lose their shit if they saw us shoot, two male sheep's head each.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But they don't know this spot, this reef that allows the other ones to grow, but also the thing is so loaded with males, it's ridiculous.
exactly.
You know?
It's in the power plant world we called it situational awareness, and
Yeah,
it's what you guys got your shark hippies down there, and the girls and don't kill sharks, yada yada yada, and it's like, well,
totally
in
different
Florida,
environment.
is
Yeah.
you're in a whole different environment, so just shut up for a minute, you know.
I'm not going to pretend to have an opinion like I've talked about it before with the Goliath groupers. I don't know that much about it, but I know enough of seeing it where you can't take a top predator, have it go unregulated, not like
Correct.
destroy reefs. I
Yeah.
mean, so,
So
but again, that's not my opinion to really like put out there hardcore and say, no, you shouldn't. I don't have any business poking my nose in your business in Florida. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so yeah,
Yeah, the bottom line to it, and like what we were talking about with getting overfished and all that is there's a regulation. So as long as people are fully informed and they're educated, the regulation is there for a reason. So the
yeah,
my biggest thing is like when we take people out, we tell them, look, our hogfish are like your sheep's head.
right,
And this is the reason you can't shoot these kind of hogfish. Although it's legal, here's the reason that we don't like you shooting female
uh,
hogfish, and here's the reason we
right,
don't like you taking this many males off of a reef, yada yada. And just be super, super informational. And if they choose to go on about their life and do whatever, that's their own deal. But
yeah,
on social media, we have to be more informational versus more like on defense mode all the time and just attacking. Like nobody's learning by a picture, you know? like
right.
so
Well,
like
I
that's what
know
social
somebody that
media.
posted like, so the problem we have in California, I don't know if Florida's like this, but I'll probably try to wrap this up too, I guess. But um, the thing is, the laws people have an issue with are put into place by science, which could
Hmm.
be all the environmentalist groups, all the politics that go into it are made by people that necessarily don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
And
who
I'm
knows
not
if
saying
anything's
like
even true anymore.
right. And so that's where I think it's even more important for us as divers, fishermen, whatever you want to call us, to just know what the hell we're doing before we pull
Yes.
the trigger. I don't need a law that says something. I know how this whole ecosystem works, and I know when I probably should pull the trigger and when I shouldn't,
Yeah.
because I dive
But see,
you know,
but there's a lot of guys that don't, and that's where I feel like we're going a little bit wrong in the spear world. Is it took me years to figure out. It took me up until yesterday to figure out deer management. You know what I mean? So it's
right.
like, but I follow a lot of hunting pages. I follow a lot of fishing pages and all that, and I never see just a dude like me and you sitting here saying, "Hey, here's the reason we can't do this." I know this might sound stupid to the four guys in California that are going to call me a kook, but they've been doing this their whole life and they know. But there's also 40,000 guys that are following me that don't fucking know. And those are the ones I'm talking to. So
Right.
nobody does that. You know what I mean? So, like
Yeah.
the four guys that are going to call you a kook, I'm happy your dad bought you a brand new boat and a brand new truck, and I'm happy you're a little dickhead, but I don't care. If you don't like what I'm saying, don't fucking follow me. I'm not talking to you, you know?
So have
But
you been to California before then?
no, I've been to
That
California
sounded
on
like you've been here
vacation.
before. I don't know.
No, I just so many guys from California, of course, big name guys talk shit to me online and send me
Yeah.
messages. You know, I think every fucking guide, this whole guide thing is a goddamn joke. And you know, so it's like,
Yeah, I've
listen,
seen that
dude.
too. Like, and I understand. I kind of understand what they're saying because there are a lot of guys that are guides that are
Oh,
like
it is.
it's a
Yes.
joke, right? But like, my whole thing to that is like I put it on my website, Spearfishing Guide. Why? Because I like teaching, like you're saying, informational stuff and teaching young guys, mentoring young guys. You want to put a dollar figure on that. I really am a terrible businessman. I don't really have one. But other than yeah, I'll take you out diving. We'll go diving. But
So
yeah, there's a lot of guys that yeah, and I tease about Southern California because I'm born and raised here. I've lived other places, so I've experienced other things too. But like, we do have an issue here where it's very superficial, and then you go to other places and they don't give a shit about having a salty crew shirt on. They don't
yeah,
give a shit about this
they
or
don't
that.
care.
Why? Because they just do their thing. Like
Yeah,
when you're on a small island, and I always say it's like in the Pacific, you go there, people, everybody in the island fishes, dude. You're not special.
yeah,
Like, so, so why do you do it? Right? Like, oh, I just do it, because I just love it. Right? That makes sense. So
yeah.
we just have to be careful to like help
Well, as long as
educate
you're
younger guys and not be a douchebag about it.
and follow the laws, that's it, man. Like if you know
Yeah.
the laws and you're following them, like more power to you. But the guide thing, and I think where like the problem is with guys in California and stuff is like you've got guys like going over there just bringing people and they don't have like for instance, let me tell you the story about how to fish on the Gulf. You have to have permits, and I think you got to have them in California to harvest bluefin, but in the Gulf, you have to have these special permits that are around $40,000 just to fish in the Gulf of Mexico as a charter.
Yeah.
Um, that guys like me, I didn't know this at the beginning. I almost got busted for it. I had no idea. I just had a captain's license and a state fishing license for charter. I didn't know about these permits, but I went and bought the
Commercial
fucking.
permit. Yeah.
It's not a commercial permit. You can add commercial quota to it, but it
Yeah.
allows you to harvest fish in federal waters. But I didn't know about this. But there's guys like me that either made a huge commitment, sold something that they didn't want to sell, a life commitment to buy these permits just to do this. And then you've got guys like going per se, like on my boat with a group of people. It's like you're not legal there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and then you've got the same guy going to California on a charter captain's boat that he bought the permits, but you didn't. So the guys in California are like, you're not a legal
I know exactly what you're
charter.
talking about.
So,
Yeah.
um,
I know
so
exactly
and
what
that's
you're
where the
talking about. You're talking about like this. So for example, I kind of actually got rubbed the wrong way on this because I do have a little bit of the whole like, uh, I am territorial, like I guess. Like, so
yeah,
for example, there was a guy in Florida is like, hey, we're gonna start doing bluefin charters now. Come with me. I'll fly you out to California. We'll jump on a boat that I have essentially have chartered,
yeah,
a charter guy that charters here, and
yeah.
then I'll take you out. We'll get bluefin. And it's like, so I understand that a little bit, but like in California, I'm like, I get that when you're going to other countries and stuff, but essentially, like, that I feel like that would be me, like, hey guys, and maybe I'm off base. I'm just like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little wrong, but like, it would
It's
be like
it's
if I got,
it's a touchy subject.
it is
Yeah,
touchy. Maybe if I'm like, hey, I do Brett Whitman Spearfactor spearfishing charters. You want to come dive with me? Cool. Yeah. Okay. You want to go shoot hogfish in the Keys? Cool. Come with my charter business. I go
yeah.
there. Then I pay some dude some money just to take us out, and it's really like I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing
You don't know what you're
in
doing.
your backyard,
See,
and I'm
and
stealing
there's
clients from you.
yeah, so there's a couple guys like myself, Chris Tavera, Miami skin diver,
Yeah.
Pete Corial,
I know Pete.
um,
Yeah. I love him. Yeah.
Cameron, and we don't we're competitors, right? But we
Right.
don't step on each other's toes. So like if someone calls me and they say, "Hey man, I want to shoot big giant black groupers in the Bahamas and I want to shoot muttons," I'll say, Here's Chris Tavera's number. Like, I don't, dude, I'm on the Gulf
Yeah,
Coast, and if they call me and they say if they're my customers, and I'll straight up honest, look, dude, I'll take you to the Bahamas. We might shoot a hogfish or something, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing there. I don't live over there. And Chris
right.
just sent me a couple customers the other day, and they said, hey, we're flying into Tampa. We want to learn to free dive. We want to go on a couple spearfishing charters. He said, here's Charlie's number. But he didn't say, okay, well, send me a deposit and I'll meet you over there and I'll go on Charlie's boat
That's what I'm
with
talking
you.
about.
And it's like, just be, it's
That's what I'm
weird.
talking about. That's
So
that's the thing I have an issue with because it's
yeah,
like,
it's weird.
yeah,
And how do you talk shit about it? Because it's like everybody wants to make money,
make
but
money. I get it.
but bottom line is, if you're legal, then do it. But if, say you came over and you made money on my boat, but your names are not on my permit, guess who's
Right,
not legal? You. Yeah.
right.
So now
Yeah,
you are in federal waters making money and you're an illegal charter. So that's where the guys are getting pissy, like the bluefin guys and like the guys on the Gulf. Um,
yeah. The charter thing's tough because
it's
people
tough.
realize it sounds great. Like, hey, charter. Like I started looking into it, and then I realized like, hey, I have a boat. I like taking people out. Yeah, I do this and that. You know what? I don't want the responsibility of
Mhm.
sending people in the water free diving that I don't even know who they are, and B, I don't mind taking people out, friends of mine, or having people pay for the gas, like literally pay for the gas. But like, I don't really want to run a business. I have a full-time job. If
Yeah.
you want me to take you, I could do guided trips. We can go here. I'll do guided trips down to Mexico or whatever it is, like places I know. But doing a charter business full time, man, unless you have a good captain other than you, like that's a lot of damn work. And
A
in
lot of
this
work.
state, the taxes and all the other shit just crushes you.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
and see, and I'm kind of, I think me and you had the mindset with why we don't like the type of guys that do that. So when I did my 4-year little tour, there was a lot of money invested into that. We bought the boat. I think we own a boat in Cape Verde, Africa.
yeah,
I bought a little place in Costa Rica, and there's a little panga that we built there, and I put a GPS on it and a brand new motor and all this. It's like I invested in that spot, and when you go on that boat, it's my fucking boat. You know what I mean? And all those
right.
spots are
Yeah,
spots that I fucking found. So for someone like, there's a bunch of guys, these guides, they'll all they do is surf on social media, and we'll go here and then they'll message like a local guy that I took out, and they'll say, hey man, I can bring 10 customers there next week. And it's like,
yeah,
you are fucked, like you're fucked.
yeah,
but
yeah.
but what's nice about Peter, like Peter, Cameron, Tavera, myself, Chris Coates, there's a lot of guys that like we work, we respect each other's area. So like I won't take people to Panama. I won't do it. I won't take people to Abaco, Bahamas, and all that. That's Tavera's area,
Right.
and I'll gladly give him the money. The old boy's a badass. He earns it. Peter is a badass. He earns it. So it's like,
Yep.
um, we try not to step on each other's toes, but as soon as somebody tries to come in our one little spot that we worked our ass for, it's a bloodbath.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's a weird sport, man. But as long as you're legal and everything's going down, you got the permits to back your ass up, have at it. But most people don't.
Well, and it's funny too because like I just voiced, something and you did too, and it's like funny because it all could be handled in a conversation,
It could
Like
be
if I
handled in
really
a
care,
conversation.
like if I was really that upset with it, like then hey, what's up with you talking shit about this or that? No, well, this is the way I look at it. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. All
but
right.
that'll never happen. Yeah,
No.
so
Yeah.
it's it's a weird sport, man. It's fun. We need more people getting into it, because it can grow. There's a few things that I don't, we all don't like,
Yeah.
but it's just we need more information, and we need less social media popularity,
Yeah.
and you'll get more. You get more respect and you get more popular by being informational and being honest, and like you
But
see
one
me
thing,
making
go ahead. Sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
saying, you see me like making fun with the USA Team USA freedivers all the time, the spearfishing team. It's like they lose every competition they go to. There's a couple of good guys on it, but it's like they're diving on like a lake in Nevada, in Las Vegas. It's like
I know it.
they're not like why are
somebody,
you
I
why are
have
you
friends.
world champion USA freedivers? Like, you're
Yeah,
not an Olympic athlete. Like, there's no trials to get on that team. So like, we wanted to do it. We honestly wanted to do it. Chelsea, my wife, and a few of her friends, they called us and they said, they're like, "Hey, will you? I know you got a bunch of badass girls that dive. Would you be willing to dive in the tournament?" We said, "Absolutely." So all these girls booked their flights and they're coming in, and we're all preparing for it. We go to the captain's meeting. I don't know, and I don't know if you've ever been to these meetings, but this is nationals, USA, best freedivers in the world, nationals tournament. So you would
where
think,
which one? The one in Arkansas or the one
no, this
in
was in
Lake Mead?
Clearwater, Florida, right next to my house.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you would think, like, all right, these girls are eating right 3 days before. We're training, like, we're about to fuck some shit up. We go to the captain's meeting. They tell you you can't dive past 55 feet. Your
Mhm.
boat can't exceed 35 miles per hour. You can't, like, a barracuda counts the same points as a cobia. If you shoot like two sheep's head, a hogfish, and a mangrove snapper, it counts the same as a 40-pound black grouper. It's like, wait a second. But if you shoot a black grouper on the Gulf, you easily laid on the bottom at 120. How does a barracuda count the same as a cobia? Well, it's a pelagic. So there's all these rules. It's like, that's not a world class diver. You know what I mean? If you limit someone,
Yeah, yeah,
so
I
like,
understand. I've
you
dealt
get what
with
I'm saying?
this. Yeah, yeah, I understand. I've dealt with this with our football team, like mentality
Yeah.
of
So
like,
everybody gets a goddamn trophy. So it's like,
yeah,
imagine
yeah.
telling Dale Earnhardt, you can't. Hey man, I know your car's fast, but we're
And
gonna
you
put a
wonder why you
governor
get
on.
your fucking asses kicked on the world
Yes.
stage. And the only, I'm not saying that to anybody like Jason Lee or any of those guys. I'm just saying like in general, like we as Americans, we get soft and then we get our asses kicked on the world stage. And you've seen that
Correct.
in military, you've seen that in everything else. It's like that's because our mindset is wrong. like
Yes. We
like I
want to.
remember some of
We
my
want to be
favorite,
winners without winning, and that's a
yeah,
problem.
some of my favorite people that I looked up to, I guess it's funny. I never understood when I was little why I liked their attitude, but I remember Sonny Garcia, the surfer. He was like, I never entered a contest I didn't plan to win. Why the fuck would
Yeah.
I enter a contest if I plan to lose? Like,
Correct. And
and
we
it's
could
just
just
that
be.
mentality. I was like, man, I like that shit. Like,
And me and you could just be, I mean, probably considered dumb, redneck, raw dog, stupid men. But it's like, when someone challenges me to a competition, I immediately think, in spearfishing or freediving, I think deepest, biggest, best, coolest. You know what I mean? So it's like, who
right.
shot the biggest fucking fish? Who shot the deepest fucking fish? Who shot the coolest fucking fish? Not who shot the most gross weight or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, if someone challenged me, I'd be like, how do you even judge that?
how do
Like,
you
what?
judge it in spearfishing? So I
Yeah,
get it, but it's like, there's a reason we're in this everyone gets a trophy type thing, and we don't have good people to learn from to keep the sport extreme. We have good people to
right.
learn from to keep it fun,
For
but
sure.
not to
Yeah.
keep it extreme. And that's my company to a T. Is, I'm not trying to get you in it to have a goddamn fucking pontoon day on the boat. I'm trying to kick your ass when you come in the water, and when
Yeah.
you leave, you're gonna say, "Holy fuck, what just happened?" And
Kind
that's
of
what I
like
want.
I like the flips, the other side where you said the fun side of it, where it's like, don't take yourself seriously. Like we shoot fish, dude. Like calm
Yeah,
down. Like if I really
yeah,
was starving, I could go to the fucking grocery store.
it,
Like,
and
but
that's, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
how you like how
everybody again,
everything's
calm
fucking
down.
sustainable now, right? Like, dude, you
Yeah.
shoot a lot of fish, and I shoot a lot of fish. And if you shoot a big fish, like them fish that I love Chris Tavera, because he's not publicly vocal like I am,
Uh
but
huh.
he's just like I am. He's just a little bit more quiet. But
Yeah.
that motherfucker will shoot fish in the Bahamas so big, like, dude, one fish will last you, one big old cubera or
Last you a
broomtail
year.
grouper, it'll last you a year.
Yeah.
So
We
how are
shot a
you gonna
200-pound
shoot?
bluefin and it lasted a year.
Yeah, so how
Like
are
with
you
the
gonna shoot
families.
4 bluefins, or go to the Bahamas and shoot this big black grouper, 25 lobsters, all these hogfish, and say, "Oh, sustainable, I'm eating for the week." Like, well, you should have shot fucking one small fish, because it'll take me a whole week to eat one hogfish, you know? So,
I
but
understand. I
everybody
understand.
has
I
to
tell people that all the
justify.
time.
You
Yeah.
got to justify for why you did this. And it's like, everybody's got a goddamn excuse on to make everybody comfortable of why I shot this fish. And it's like,
Yeah.
with me, bro, you want to know why I shot it? Because I wanted to fucking kill something. I wanted to watch something die, because I just dove down there and held my breath, and I just wanted to fucking shoot something. I don't care where I shot it. I don't care if
Yeah.
it's ethical. I just want to fucking kill it, you know?
Well, and I think
So
that's the issue, right? Because people preach, like, including myself, like sustainability. Like, sure, yeah. I don't even really like people preach it. So then when they see them shoot like 6 bluefin or something, like right in like a
yeah,
matter of a week, you're like, yeah, bro, sure.
super
That's like
sustainable.
800 pounds of fucking meat. It's like, well, the
Yeah,
commercial guys take all the fish. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. And I'm not
yeah.
judging. I'm just saying, but like, really just take care of yourself. And then, if you're just talking about
And
sustainability to me is like really just feeding yourself and your family, and then that'll be it. But um
and the funniest ones, like California and South Florida, you guys are neck and neck with the pussiness, if that makes any sense. Like the bitchiness, and like it's just funny. Like I'm super super raw, but like I love listening to the guys in South Florida go to the Bahamas. And have you ever been to the Bahamas?
no,
I
man.
Okay, so like these guys in South Florida go to the Bahamas, and like they have to justify everything they do for the likes, and like they'll shoot like all these crazy fish, and somebody will say like, "Hey, why'd you shoot that many fish? Are you ever going to eat them?" And they're like, "Oh, we give back to the community, we give back to the islanders and the villages." It's like, bitch, that motherfucker's walking around with an iPhone and Nike Air Jordan shoes. Like it ain't fucking villagers, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, well, I've been to
they,
places that are really like that for sure, and I know
yes,
you have too.
yes,
So those are real places where the
but
dudes
it's
are like,
funny
"You're
to
a
me, like,
hero."
yeah, and you're a hero when
And
you give them.
Fiji,
Like,
like
dude, when I was
mounds
in,
of fish, and they're like,
yes,
"You're a hero," and
and
we're
and they'll take the
blasting
bones, like they'll take anything you can give them, and ththey're coming down like little buzzards from all over. And you go to the
100%.
Bahamas, and old boy's got headphones in his ears and a gold chain. It's like you give him a fish, he don't give a fuck.
You
They're
don't even
not
want to eat
villagers.
it.
So
Yeah,
you don't have to justify why you shot it. If you shot the legal amount, you did it because you went there to have a good time. You paid money. So who gives a fuck what anybody thinks why you
yeah,
shot it? You know.
yeah.
So
I loved it. I saw a comment one time. My buddy was on the bottom of like 90 feet, and he shot this. I think it was a dog tooth. This like a smaller dog tooth that came in, and he's on the bottom of 90 feet sitting there for like, I think like a minute or two, like a while. He's a good diver, and shot it, and some guy was like, nice belly shot. And
yeah,
I was like, oh, so
who
now
gives
we're
a fuck,
fucking
bro?
now we're calling each other out on like
Uh
where I
huh.
didn't place it. I'm like,
Dude, that's a huge Gulf Coast thing.
ah,
Like they're
fuck.
like, oh, meat shot, meat shot. Cool
Okay,
dive,
dude.
but meat shot. Like, bitch, that bitch is in the fucking cooler. I don't care where I shot it at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a weird, weird sport, man. And I just learned to not give a fuck. Like, I'll eat anything.
I think it's because we're all very, you have two extremes. You have the earthy people, the people that tend to get more into the freediving side of it, I think almost, but they get into the spearfishing side because they love the sustainability and like the spiritual, like take my own food, they're very green, like side. And then there's the dudes that are like hunters, like we just want to kill shit, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and like I love animals, I love the outdoors. And so it's like there's always a level of respect for sure. I'd rather hit a homeless dude with a car than a deer.
yeah.
But hey, so then there's like our side of it where it's like I like to hunt and shoot stuff, and then cool. And then like I'll give a lot of the food away most of the time because like, depending on what we're making or what I get, like we don't necessarily eat all of it.
Yeah.
But so it's like the killing side, and then the peace, love, whatever side of like you think.
It's
So it's just funny, man. And
you
I
just
think you're,
shouldn't. The bottom line is you shouldn't have to justify it. Like
yeah,
like I'm not gonna sit here and be a hippie and be like, oh, I want to pet the fish at the end of the video and say, thank you, fish, for giving me your life. Like
yeah,
to me, like it's like I get it, man. Like it's God's gift to us to be able to help harvest
100%.
natural food. But
Shit,
I'm not gonna fucking
yeah.
justify to some little hippie on Instagram about
No,
a
no,
meat
no, no, no,
shot and an
no.
ethical shot. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the problem. Is like just
I got
tell
a buddy of
people like,
mine. Yeah, sorry, I'm cutting you off, man. Go ahead.
yeah, no. So I'm just like with our customers and our whoever we talk to. It's like when people ask me like, "Hey man, where's the best spot to shoot a fish so I don't hurt it?" I'm like, wherever you fucking hit it, because they're so worried about making an ethical shot, because that's the thing now. It's like
Yeah.
you just held your breath, you did something for the first time in your life. Just shoot the motherfucker, and we'll worry about it later. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we'll get it, we'll
so,
kill it as quickly as we
well,
can, and we'll be done
yeah,
with it. Like, I don't get my rocks off seeing an animal suffer, but I
no,
like to eat the fucking thing. I'm not like
I like to eat it. Yeah,
like,
it's
obviously, it's like when you're hunting with a bow or something. I've only done that a few times, but it's like, you got to wait to get a close shot. You won't be eaten. Like,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
won't.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's funny, but I got to wrap it up here. But I mean, holy shit, Charlie, I could talk about, I think we covered like one topic, but
I know, we had like 10 and we ran it again.
yeah, we missed out on all the girls in thongs and taking shots on fish that never actually spearfish, and
Yeah.
then the girls that are legit that dive their ass off.
Yeah,
So,
we got Chelsea
anyways,
that can dive 120 feet and shoot everything on the planet, and nobody even knows who she is. and you got, and then you've
yeah,
got the other girls that moved from fucking Canada to Miami, and they shoot a fucking barracuda and their goddamn world record. You know
on
what I mean?
Rogan,
It's just yeah,
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 yeah.
burning 9 million calories an hour.
I don't know.
let's
Well, we'll see. We'll
let's
see.
not get into
I
it.
love it. I love it. I love it because we'll see how this goes down. This could be my last show. So my wife was like, "Be careful." I know how you get.
uh,
I'm like, you know what? I realize like, I do listen a little bit to Joe Rogan, and I think that people appreciate at least the honesty. So I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna be honest. I have a bad mouth. I swear like a sailor, and I try to keep that clean for the kids for sure. But
yeah.
at some point, like I'm definitely like, uh, I think it just the truth needs to be said, and a lot of things to keep us all just to be, I don't know, be fucking completely real. Like,
Yeah,
you
nobody
know,
likes the truth, man. It's hard to accept, and
uh,
nowadays, if you tell the truth, you're being mean or you're an asshole, and it goes all the way down
yeah,
to,
a sexist, a racist, this or
yeah,
that.
just
Someone said I
accept
was,
the reality, accept the truth, and
yeah,
if you do, you become a better person and you get along with people better. But the more and more you run from it, you're gonna
yeah,
suck at everything. You're always gonna cry about everything, and that's what's going on. It's like just accept the truth and
yeah.
be whatever, you know.
I think the funny thing is like you yourself are trying to make a business, a living out of it, but in the end of it is like, well, why is this such a big deal? Like,
Yeah.
I thought it
Why
was
is it a big
funny
deal?
talking about spearfishing, and I never talked about spearfishing more in my life than in the last couple years on this show and stuff. And I'm like, the end of the thing is like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I just go in the water and dive. I wouldn't come home.
Uh
I might take a picture to show my wife, like, hey, check it out. You
huh.
know, but like, look what I saw today. This is really cool or whatever. But yeah, it's really just supposed to be fun. So everybody chill the fuck out, as I would tell
That's it, man.
my
Just have a
players.
good time. Stay off the
Yeah,
fucking internet. It's like, dude, I've
yeah,
got like 600 followers now, and I don't give a fuck if I've got any. And I'm just like, we're having the best time of our life. We don't care what people think. Our customers are, I mean, we're all good friends. Our business is doing great. And the biggest advice I can give anybody in this sport is stay the fuck off the internet.
yeah.
Like,
And if you guys have that being said, though, if anybody on this show has questions, like there's a few of us. I know Shrek is very like from New Spiro is super cool, like very like open. Don't be afraid to ask. Like for some
yeah,
reason, like I mean, everyone's like, "Oh, you do this or that." Like I have no problem sharing information. Why? Why do I like? Why? You know, I don't
yeah.
understand that the whole fisherman of like guarding your spots. Like I get that, but like the other side of it, like, it took me 20 years to learn a lot of things that I probably could have learned in 6 months if we had access to the things that we do now. So
Yeah, and it
yeah,
has a lot to do with your profession, and I think that's what gives me a lot of attitude and a lot of drive in the sport is where I came from is the nuclear background, and everything's very procedural based and all that, and
yeah. I
every
work I work
morning,
with nuclear submariners now.
yes.
It's
So
I
you
never written so many SOPs in my life.
correct, and
Yeah,
and our mindset um is very procedural, and no accident happens without a reason. So that's
right.
where if there's an accident, like if you're rearing somebody, it's always your fault. Figure out why you did it. So if you black out, it's always your fault. Figure out why you did it. If you die, it's your buddy's fault. He shouldn't have let you die.
Right.
Unless there's some kind of freak accident, you shouldn't be blacking out spearfishing. Um, but the other thing is for the new guys, and in my mindset still to this day is there's never a stupid question. Now, I joke with that because I'm no longer in the power plants. But every question, I'll fuck with people. But like you're gonna ask me some stupid ass questions, right? Like, but
Right.
they're not stupid if that makes sense. Like because you don't know, you actually are stupid. You have to be able to admit I'm stupid right now. I'm an idiot. Like right now,
Yeah.
I'm getting all in this deer hunting, and I fully sit down with these guys and I say, dude, I am stupid as fuck. I don't know what you're talking about. And these guys are like, what do you mean you don't know you can't shoot a deer that big? Or what do you mean you know, I'm like, dude, I don't
Right.
fucking know. I've never done it. So you have to be able to admit that you're stupid. Um,
That's how you learn, though.
and so
If
you learn,
you
but
know,
people take the word stupid or idiotic, or they take it as such offense that they're so scared to just ask a dumb question. So there is not a such thing as a dumb question if you're learning from it, you know.
right.
But then you'll look back and you say, damn, that was a pretty stupid question. It's kind of common sense. But at the time, it wasn't stupid. So for the new guys, I personally don't mind talking to people. I don't charge to talk to people wherever. It's just like, hey, Charlie,
Right.
what's going on? How do I learn more? Whatever. But they're so scared to ask these questions because they don't want to feel stupid. They want to just feel cool. And they want, you know, so the biggest question I always get is like, what kind of camera do you use? And it's like, that's like that's like the last question you should ask me. You know, like I want
Right.
to teach you to be a better diver.
The
I want to
most
teach you to be a little bit
insignificant. Yeah.
safer. I want to teach you to to reach your goals as a spear diver, not to get more likes on Instagram. I don't give a fuck about that. So so for the new kids, for the older guys like you, dude, like you can sit here and look me now all you want, and you just somehow got to admit, dude, I'm from California. I've been diving for 20 years. You're from Florida. You've been diving a couple years, and you're smoking my ass. Like, can I learn a little bit from you? You know.
Right.
So
Yeah. I
you just
don't know
got to
anything
accept
about.
it,
Yeah.
and that's what I do, man. I brought some guys from Australia to Costa Rica a couple years ago, and dude, I'm talking. These dudes were fucking badasses. I'm like, what are y'all doing? And it was all these carbon fiber guns, these crazy kind of fins, and they were doing these push things and all that. I'm like, I want to fucking learn that, you know? So you can never stop learning in this sport. In any aspect of life, the day you stop learning is the day you better have your head in the ground on the pillow. So I'm done with that. I'll cap it off with that, bro.
No. So how do they get a hold of you if they want to try Good Time Charlie Charters or?
Go to Sea Hags on Blinds Pass with a dick pic and slip it under the door, and Dave. So, how you guys get a hold of me? I don't recommend reaching out social media or whatever. The website is the best way. It's the most solid way. Websites don't go away. There's no regulation in it. Our website is www.gtcc.fish. From there, I'm horrible with. I'm not going to have a chat room on the website. I had a girl build it for me. I don't even know if it works, but my phone number's on there. My email's on there. If you want to text me, call me. You can try to message me online and all that, and I'll answer it. But who knows when I'm going to get deleted again? But just go to the website. Ask any question you want. We'll build a relationship. And I'll save your number. I'll text you all day long. Every time I get, I'm more than happy to help people. But I'm not gonna sit here and have a full blown free dive class with you over a text message. You know what I mean? I'm eventually gonna be like,
Yeah.
hey, dude, you want to learn? Like, come learn. Um, but just the older guys that want to get better, the guys that are stuck in a rut, which is very very common. You yourself, if you can't get past 75, 80 spear diving, you're stuck in a rut.
Right.
Dude, you're one of 9 million people that we've trained to get out of that rut. It's a very common fix. So just the new guys getting into it, the the our age group and the older guys, like just learn, be willing to learn. And I myself, if someone sees me doing something wrong, my phone number's on. It's very public. Say, hey, Charlie, I noticed you said something online, or I've seen you doing this, and that's wrong because of this reason. And if you can justify it and you can prove me, I will happily take your advice and learn from it. So please feel free to do that. Um,
Hey Charlie, you're an asshole because of this, this, and this. How about
yeah,
that?
you ain't changing that, dog. Yeah. Um, But anyway, you guys know how to get a hold of us. We try to stay off the online stuff too much, and we're going back old school, man. We're going back letters in mailboxes, stickers on bathrooms. Like it's who knows? Social media is controlling our life so much nowadays. It's I just want to go back to shaking hands, having a beer, and talking in real life. It's the best way you can do anything.
Awesome. No,
So
that's the way to do it, man. Thank you so much for finally making time to meet up with me and
yeah,
linking
it took a
everything up.
while,
Yeah,
huh?
no, it's my life too. I get it.